everybody. Welcome. Great to have so many of you here today. We've got a packed agenda. Let's see. This is my first time doing this, so I have really good support, but in case it looks a little bumpy, it is. So, right. So I think the first thing we want to do is go over the minutes.
Yeah, so just confirm that we have a quorum, and then open the meeting.
Okay. To confirm we have a quorum, there are 3 of us here today, and I'd like to open the Zoning Board of Appeals meeting August 19th, 2026. Second. All in favor?
You gotta ask for a second.
Oh, second.
You just gave it to me.
Yep.
Very good. So I think there are a couple modifications to the posted agenda, so I will hit those first, and then we can talk about the minutes from the last meeting. First of all, the Miller Road preservationists have been rescheduled from tonight until next. I'd like to propose that that we why.
Yeah, okay, so at the last meeting, the ZBA scheduled a public hearing for the Mill Road preservationists. They didn't get the notice out in time. So I suggest that we make a motion to reschedule the public hearing for September 16th.
Second.
Well, I can't make a motion.
I was going to make the motion. Okay, so I'd like to make a motion that we reschedule the Mill Road preservationists public hearing to September 16th. Do I have a second? All in favor? The second change is that the Foster flooring public hearing was actually closed at the last meeting, so that will be part of old business. If there's anybody here for that.
And Kara, just on that note, I do have some resolutions drafted for Foster Flooring and Samuels and Gottlieb Graham. I usually try to get them posted, but I wasn't able to do that, so there are some at the top. At the top here, I can take them for anyone who's interested in the audience for those.
Thank you very much. Then our next order of business is to approve the meetings from the July 15th meeting. Has everybody had a chance to take a look at those as posted and all looks good? Okay, I'd like to make a motion to approve the minutes from the July 15th meeting. Do I have a second? All in favor? Okay, and with that, we have 3 new applications on the agenda for tonight. We're just hearing about those. And we are, do we need to open this section?
No.
Just flow right in, okay. So we'll start with our first application, and that is Eric Grimmelman, 55 Winthrop Lane. You want to come up and take the mic? And is this, you already have your presentation up? Is that what you're up on the screen?
Our architect will
take us. Thank you, Brad. I guess this is the first time he's done that. Fabulous. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Kurt Sullivan. I'm an architect working with Eric Ruiz on the project. And we're actually before the planning board for a special use permit. But we do have a front yard setback that's been determined to need an area variance. So that's why we're here tonight. And I'll walk you through it. We want to block people, so
It could be okay. Do we have the pointer?
Yes, yes.
Oh, okay. Oh, okay.
I don't think I'm blocking anybody, right?
No, your clarification, are we deciding, is that we're deciding whether or not we need
Oh, well,
area variance or?
I'm going to bring that up
Okay.
at the question. So if you could just proceed to tell me, I'll bring that question up.
Okay, so
Oh, good point. With our line?
okay,
Yeah, like,
sure.
Yeah, you can use.
Can everybody hear me?
People usually stand over by the mic to do it, and of course, it's fine.
Just so they can pick for the
All right, great.
video.
Can everybody hear me now?
Yeah.
So, this is a single-family residential property. It's a historic site. It's an old stone house. It's comprised of 3 land parcels. One here that's going off the screen. The second one here, which the house is on. And then there's a third parcel that kind of goes off the screen over here. The Wine Coop Lane is a dead-end road, and it kind of ends in a lollipop right here. There's one more house at the end of the road here, and the road cuts right through the middle of the property. So the question came up, is this the front yard? And we have taken the position that the road determines, the front yard. And so this would be, this is the existing house that's not hatched. So the front of the house would be this face right here. The front face is 36 feet from the center line of the road. Our new addition is on the back of the house completely, and that is 65 feet from the center of the road. But there is one edge of the addition that comes towards the side yard 2 feet, and I believe that is the element that is triggering the variance. Because we are, even though we're completely on the back of the building, speaking with the zoning administrator, the addition goes closer to a property line, and that's what triggers the addition as per the clause that he cites. So basically, I'll just walk you through a couple of the other elements. There's an existing garage here, there's an existing cabin cottage here, and there's a garden here and garden shed. There's ponds on the property. It's residential, rural. So that's pretty much the lay of the land. This is a close-up of the existing stone house, which is right here. This is a 1950s addition that came off the stone house. And you can see our hatched addition here. This is our new hatched addition. It's a kitchen. And then this is an extension of the terrace. There's an existing terrace right here, and we're expanding that back.
And I don't know if you want to see the floor plans, I can go through them, but they also did provide renderings of what the proposals would like.
That would be helpful, and just as a point of clarification, I thought the issue was the projection into the front yard setback.
So,
Yeah, you want to jump in
Yeah.
right now?
so this is the section of the zoning law that is being cited here. It's, so, as Mr. Sutherland had mentioned, this is a pre-existing house. It's actually on the historic district. I think it's from 1730, is that where the house is from?
Yeah.
So section H, this is the section 125-19, which is talking about zoning district regulations. And what section H says is that the existing front, side, and rear yards adjoining existing structures built prior to December 2009, one or more of which may be less in depth than the minimum setbacks set forth with Article 4 area bulk regs, and therefore non-complying, shall be considered grandfathered upon this chapter. Additions or other improvements to such structures that may be proposed shall be authorized without requirements of an area variance, provided that the addition or other improvement is no nearer any property lines than the existing structure. So what, I spoke with Mike Dugard, who's the current zoning enforcement officer, and he had pointed to the second sentence, which says, no nearer to any property line than the existing structure. So that's what the applicant was just explaining, is that even though it's not further into the setback of the front yard, it's still closer to the side yard because it projects a little bit closer, and the rear yard, I suppose.
Yes,
well.
of course. Yeah.
But I was looking at this because I had always kind of been under the impression that you don't want to create more of a nonconformity, and I think that in the past, and perhaps it's just that any additions happen to be further encroaching into what, kind of further encroaching into the setback. And what I had read from the first sentence was that it's saying that if you have an existing front, side, or rear yard that is non-complying, that's considered grandfathered in. And then the second sentence says, if you have an addition that goes further to a property line, then you need an area variance. And I guess the question that I pose as the ZBA, you can interpret this zoning law, I didn't know if you also interpret it as the zoning enforcement officer, that just focusing on the second sentence alone, saying that additions that are now closer to the property line require an area variance, in which case we'll continue with this application. Or if you also read it that in conjunction with the first one, the first sentence kind of is saying that if you have an existing structure that's within the setback already, built prior to 2009, those setbacks are grandfathered in, and if those additions that are already in the setback go closer to the property line, then the area variance is required, almost like making it conforming.
So Marty, a question, I was under the impression that the side and rear yard, they were not within, they were not infringing on the side and rear yard setbacks.
Right, the current setback.
So those are fine.
Yeah.
Right, so so the side and rear setbacks in the RC5 is 50 feet, and they're
They're
within
not
those
within
50
that.
feet.
Exactly.
It's because the addition on the side is closer to the property line, a property line, happens to be the side property line, that Mike Dugard was reading the second sentence as saying, focusing on this line, no nearer to any property line. So that's what he's picking up on. I think the ZBA could reasonably interpret this as two sentences. One is that if the existing building is already within the setback, the lines are grandfathered in. And then this second sentence about nearer to the property line is in conjunction with the existing non-conformity.
Exactly, that's how I read it.
Right, so that's,
So that only
that's,
applied to the front is the way I read it.
okay, yeah.
In-
And in this case, it's not any closer to the front existing.
But do we need to bring them into compliance since they're touching the bit that's in the setback?
Well, with an area variance, what you're trying to do is that, so with a setback, you're not supposed to have any structures within, from the road to where the setback is. So we typically calculate that from where it's closest to the road, in which case they're already kind of grandfathered in because they're 35 feet from it now.
Right.
And they're still in the setback, but they're not any further, that kind of goes to that they're not any nearer to the property line than what the current nonconformity is. Does that make sense?
Absolutely, my only question was because they are doing work, does that trigger the need to bring it into compliance with the variance?
Well, again, I
Because
think
I'm guessing
it depends, I guess, on how the board is reviewing this
Okay,
section,
that's
because,
what we need to,
right.
okay.
Does everybody on the board understand what the question is?
I think so. Could you put the map up?
Sure.
Just make sure you guys are reasonable. So,
Sorry.
just the
I know it's so riveting.
The way I read the second part of that piece in the code, any new addition would need a variance.
Right, I mean, that's how, and
basically.
actually, I did speak to, Mike Dugard on it, and he kind of had said too, any addition likely is going to be, unless it's like L-shaped,
Well, it would be closer to some property line.
most, like say 9 out of 10 times. And I think what happened in the past was that anytime there was a new addition, it just so happened that it was further into the encroachment. So, one of the keys when you're interpreting the zoning law is that you also look at the whole section too. So I just bring that up because I think that there's a way that you could interpret it that if you're extending the nonconformity closer to a property line, that's when you would need an area variance. But I also understand this, if you just read the second sentence, and it does say any property line. So that's why I think it's an appropriate question to bring to the board as one of your duties and, that you can do is to interpret the zoning law.
Thank you very
Yeah,
much.
actually, one thing. That's why we're here, basically, because when I first read this, I thought, how could it possibly be more feet if it won't be attached to the house? So we were confused by the writing, and the town board made when I take that up. We couldn't figure out what to do, but just to be on the safe side, we wanted to bring it to you guys to make that decision.
Yeah, and just to go on that, so the way that it actually also came in front of this board was that this issue was flagged during a pre-conference for the planning board, so because it's a historic house, they do need site plan approval. And when the planning board refers a variance application to the zoning board of appeals, they don't need to go in front of the zoning enforcement officer, they kind of can not have the middleman. So, like I said, when I spoke to Mike Dugard, he kind of had said, this is how I read it, but I think he's open if we have another interpretation, because he kind of sees the same practical problem too, but, you know, we have to stick with what the zoning law is, but we can also interpret it as a whole, as well.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, you can see how that second sentence could be rewritten in the zoning law to say, you know, the non-conforming setback, you know, if the addition got any closer to the non-conforming, you know, property line, then it would be a variance would be required. I think that would be my interpretation.
May we see the renderings? Oh, sure, yes.
Well, this actually helps just see the picture of the house real quick. Right, so we're on Line Coop Lane right now, looking at the front face of the building, although the front door is around the corner here, but it was a building built in stages. So one of these was the original front door, probably at one point. Okay.
And then I just want to show for the board, this is kind of taking it, this is likely where the addition would probably be.
Yeah, right back in here. So it would be behind these trees.
This is that little dead end area, it's right over here, just so you can kind of see what we're.
And it's on the same parcel that's on the other, directly opposite on this other side of the road.
Yeah, this is, yeah, they own, their parcel spans, you know, the road, both sides. Okay, yeah. So, so this is a view from like Wine Coop Lane would be running right here where my cursor is. So this is the view we were just looking at with the trees in front of it. That's the front face of the building. This is the south side, and then the addition would be on this back portion of the building. This lower roof is existing, so our new addition attaches to the existing back addition. And then this is the new kitchen here. That's the existing roof right here in the cursor. And then now we're looking just at the new kitchen addition here.
What we wanted to do was not touch the original house.
No.
So we're extending in essence what was the 1950s or so kitchen and bathroom addition. So
And we're attaching to the latest portion of the house, preserving the original parts of the building, faces of the building.
So what we need to decide is whether or not the application.
Yeah, I would say, I would say the first question that the board should be considering is an area variance necessary? That would be the first question. If a variance is necessary, then we'll go into the procedural acceptance of the application, seeker, referrals. If you determine that a variance is not necessary, you can have those discussions now, and then I can draft up a resolution. I'll pass it, if that's what the board decides, I can pass it along to the
Sure.
planning board so they know what will be coming, but then I'll take time to draft it up and prepare it for next meeting.
I have one question. If we decided that an area variance is not required in our reading of the code, does that then effectively set a precedent for anybody else coming down?
Yes.
So we're essentially kind of rewriting it.
Well, I guess it wouldn't be a rewrite, it would be an interpretation. But
Like other interpretations.
yes, your decision would have precedent. But it's not, like I said, your job is to interpret the zoning law, so, that would be what the interpretation would be, moving forward, but you're not making a legislative change or anything like that.
My first reading would be that a variance is not required. That, it's not encroaching anymore on the setback that's too small and that was grandfathered in. It's not worsening that situation. And that to read it the other way, as we discussed, would virtually require a variance for every application,
Yeah.
every addition, which I don't think was the intent of how that was written. That would be my reading of it.
And I'm inclined to agree. My only question was whether because they are doing the work, whether they would need a variance for the bit that's already in the front setback.
No, that would be grandfathered in, because they're not expanding on that work, they're not doing anything on the front of it.
If the addition were on the other side of the house, it'd be a whole different discussion.
Right.
There would
It
be no
would,
question.
I think then it would be, the question is if it's, so right now it's at 35 feet, and the new addition is at 65 feet, but I think if any work was done in the front, where now you're encroaching further into that front yard setback.
Or if the addition was on the south side and came 2 feet in front
Of the rear
of the
yard.
original front of the house,
Mhm.
they'd need variance. That makes sense. Does that make sense? Yeah.
Okay.
I'm comfortable with that. Everybody else is.
Okay, I can draft up a resolution, for next month, just to kind of put that, and then you get a chance to kind of see it.
And then the resolution wouldn't really be about this application, it would be about.
Well, it would be about this resolution, but we would put the link, I would put your reasoning in there to explain it, which might have a precedential value to future applications for similarly situated applicants. In other words, applicants that might have a non-conforming house, additions are not encroaching further into where the non-conformity is.
Right. Because it's really only applying to applications where they have a grandfathered in.
Yeah, a
Situation.
structure that was erected before 2000.
Okay.
So when is this applicant in front of the planning board again?
September 8th.
They, yes,
The eighth.
First
what is the public hearing?
As a public hearing. So just for, here's what I'm just thinking, because the next ZBA meeting is, September 16th. What I would suggest, Karen, is that if you make a motion to just say that, based on the ZBA's interpretation of 125-19H, no area variance is needed for this application, and then ask for a second, and then that way the applicant has the vote and they can continue on with the planning board. I'll draft up a resolution just to put it in for the file.
So I'd like to make a motion that, yeah, I can never remember all that. That our interpretation of 125-19H leads us to the ZBA to feel that there is no area variance required for this 55 Win Coop Lane project. Do I have a second? Second. All in favor? Thank you.
And then I would just also suggest you can make a motion to direct lines to draft up a resolution, putting your rationale in.
I'd like to make a motion for Grant Lyons to write up a resolution that can be put in the file passed to the planning board so that the applicant can continue with their project. Do I have a second? Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
I'll let Melody and Jim know the decision as well, so that there's no delay.
Great, thank you very much.
Thanks.
Thank you. Good luck. Thank you for your time. Okay. Our next order of business is differently challenging. Next on the agenda is a project at 35 Lye Road, case 1107. Thank you, the team. Thank you very much. Coming up, and we've got. Bruce got all through that? Yes.
Great.
Okay.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Anthony Fresenda. I'm an architect. I'm here representing Aaron Patel, the owner of a property at 35 Lye Road. Aaron actually owns 2 plots here, which are shown on the site plan. Let's see. The smaller of the 2 lots is a 0.86 acre lot. It's an existing non-conforming lot. Aaron also owns this approximately 40 acre lot here as well. This application is also in front of the planning board for site plan approval, as well as a review of the locally designated historical characteristics of the existing home. For the zoning variances that we are requesting, those are entirely focused on the smaller lot, the 0.86 acre lot, where there are 3 existing structures.
Would you like me to move to the site plan map that has all that?
Yeah. So on the smaller lot, the address being 35 Lye, there are 3 existing structures. Here along the road, there is a dilapidated shed. It's leaning over, likely to collapse imminently. That structure is over the property line currently. Adjacent to that, there is a large agricultural garage, and then there is the existing home. The proposed project includes demolishing the dilapidated barn, relocating it within the footprint, within the property lines itself, demolishing the large agricultural garage, rebuilding it in a similar footprint and similar square footage, while aligning it to the existing home and the adjacent proposed gatehouse. The house itself, there's a proposed addition to the south, which would be a 2-level open-air structure for outdoor dining. There is an existing sunroom at the ground level here, which we are proposing to demolish and in its footprint build a 2-story addition to the east of the home. And then this rectangle here is an addition on the west side, which would be a covered entry porch for the home. Any questions so far?
The building that you're demolishing and the first building closest to the road, yeah, that one,
Mm-hmm.
is that going to be a garage, or did you say it was going to be a guest house?
It'll be a utility garage used for storage of recreational equipment, bikes, lawnmowers. There will be a bathroom in there, as well as a mezzanine area. And then the larger garage would be for equipment to maintain the larger parcel of land, tractors, brush hogs, etc. And 1 or 2 cars that might need protection during bad weather. I will say we got some good feedback from the planning board. We have our public hearing on Monday, and we are already making adjustments to what you're seeing now. In terms of the bulk of the garages, its relationship to the house, and although historical preservation may not be your main concern, we are also looking at the details of those to preserve that historical integrity and carry that through this next chapter of the property.
May I ask, when you're referring to something in there as the gatehouse?
Yeah, we have floor plans of each of these.
Is this meant to ultimately be sort of the gateway to that bigger property?
That's a good question. If you go back to the overall site plan.
I don't imagine you have to
This one or the
one we were just on?
No, this one's great, thank you.
Okay.
Yeah. So right now there are two proposed entrances into the site. Both from Bly Road are into the larger property, but you can see this road here services both the smaller property and then eventually the future proposed house up here. So there's an entrance here, there's an entrance here. This would be the main driveway servicing both residences. This one would be used in winter months in the case that the owner cannot get this plowed or there's kind of a shortcut there to get more direct access into the. The intent behind this project is to maintain the larger property as a single family residential home. There's no intention whatsoever to subdivide. And we're also, we'd like to be sensitive to the vernacular of, the traditional farmhouse, and that's kind of what's behind the arrangement of the buildings. In the smaller parcel, as much as we can while improving things such as buildings being over the property line and setbacks, we're maintaining those two structures as a nod to those pre-existing dilapidated buildings.
I have a quick question. With that second driveway that you were talking about, the one that can be used for the winter, it is off the property line. I know that you own both parcels, but I know in your application you mentioned talking about lot line adjustments. Would you be considering, and I know you said you're making some adjustments now to the area involved, and I just didn't know, is there, I know that there's an existing driveway that kind of comes off pretty close to where the gatehouse is. And I guess I just want, it's not really a ZBA concern. My question is just for the future, because you'll probably need to have some sort of like easement or right of way. And I just didn't know if you were considering just even giving, yourself to yourself.
Sure.
Just so that the second driveway is all on the property.
Yeah, it's a good point, and one that's been raised as a way to resolve some of the issues we're having here. As we're going through the process and having our monthly or bi-monthly meetings, we're getting more information. So we're waiting for ourselves to make adjustments, but also to get feedback from the town as to what is the best path forward. As you may have seen in the application, that is an option to adjust that lot line and may solve things, more than just that easement for the driveway.
But there's no intent to join the two lots.
We can. Also a question to you guys on what is best. We're very.
We wouldn't be allowed to have two principal dwellings on a single lot, though.
Oh,
Or even give some more of the land to the 0.86, like 41.4 plus 0.86, so if it needs to have 5 or 10. I'm very amenable, but the main point is I don't want to subdivide it, and it always wants to stay as one, so whatever you guys think is open to it.
I was thinking that might help, adding a little bit to it might help with the ratios in some of the area variances that are on the list.
Yeah, certainly for the building coverage and the lot coverage, certainly. And if you can expand on the setback, it would still have the accessory structures limitations of 1,500 feet wouldn't change, because the structures are the structures, but it probably would eliminate a lot.
Okay.
Yeah, we assume there'd be a commonality for those accessory structures between your board and the planning board. And we've already had this discussions of modifying those that better appeal to both groups and the code.
And I think, could you just also explain, I know you talked about this, but a lot of it will be paved or gravel, I guess, is that what this is?
Yeah, so I'll just outline the gravel area. Yeah, so everything you see in gray would be gravel. But you can take a look at that as well.
I can't remember, I think you have, I'll just go through, they do have just existing structures.
Yeah, we have photos, there should be some photos in here. Yeah, so here's the main house. This is the east side, so we would propose to demolish this sunroom and build a two-story addition here in the same footprint. This is the approach from the driveway. This is where that covered porch would be to act as the main entrance into the home. This is the elevation facing the road, the north elevation. We would relocate these condensers to a more concealed area. And we're proposing a dormer here to gain more head height space in the low ceiling of the main bedroom upstairs. And off of this facade here, we would maintain the same roof height, same roof pitch, extrude that out, and then at the top level you would have a covered porch. At the lower level would be a covered patio. Here is that structure that's over the property line. And then here is that existing garage that we would match in square footage and footprint, while I believe slightly improving the setback, or how far it's back from the property line.
Were there, do you want to see any of the floor plans? I can see
I'd love to see floor plans, but I also don't, do you guys want to see floor plans? I don't want to take people's time. Okay.
It's in the application.
Yes.
Looks like a very complete application.
Yeah.
Yeah, what are the exact variances?
Yeah, so, I'll go through and please correct me if I'm mistaken on any of them. But this was another application that was referred from the planning board during their pre-conference to the ZBA. If you are continuing with this set of plans, my recommendation would be that we also just let the zoning enforcement officer just kind of go through the plans, just to make sure that we're getting all the area variances and getting the right calculation. But their map kind of had a lot of the, I'll see if I can pull that map up to you.
Yeah.
One of them was maximum building coverage required is 7%, and they're proposing 12.6%. Which is I don't know if you want to go into square footage and acreage, just for information purposes.
Just wanted to kind of.
Yeah, minimum lot coverage, so the maximum building coverage is the amount of the structures that are on there. And lot coverage is all impervious surfaces, including the structures, which would include the parking lot. So the minimum,
Even if it's gravel?
yeah, that's why I wanted to have it checked, but
Okay.
I think it's parking
we-
area.
What we've seen as what we're proposing is considered impervious, even though it is gravel.
So the minimum lot coverage, this is in the RC5 district, is 25%, and what's being proposed is 49%. Maximum building height for accessory structures is 20 feet. Both the garage and the gatehouse are proposed to be 25 feet 2 inches.
So that's one we're gonna drop down below,
Okay.
The code
What, how high
requirement.
are they now?
They're
Amazing.
18 feet.
Front yard setback for the garage is, so you can't have an accessory structure that's either closer to the fronting house or located within the front yard setback. So 100 feet is the setback in RC5, and they're proposing for the garage is 50 feet 8 inches. And sticking with the garage, side yard setback is 37.5 feet, proposed is 3 feet 9 inches. And the rear yard setback for the garage is required to be 30 feet, and they're proposing it to be 6 feet 10 inches. For the gatehouse, that's the red barn that's closest to the road. Most of them are the same, 100 feet setback for the front, and they're proposing 12 feet 11 inches. And the side yard setback, which will be moved into the boundaries of the property, is supposed to be 37.5, it's proposed to be 4 feet 2 inches. Aggregate floor area for accessory structures, which would be the gatehouse and the garage. The limit is 1,500 square feet, and they're proposing 3,322 square feet. And this one I had a question on, you had the front parking setback and the rear parking setback. 25 feet for the front parking and 5 feet for the rear, but I didn't know what those measurements were on
And
the, which it might change, I understand. Do you have those measurements by any chance?
I don't believe so. Roughly, I think you were pulling them off of, this side and this side.
Yeah.
And I guess we'll check the code and the zoning officer to, what constitutes parking. Is it, gravel or is it just where it's parked?
Yeah, it looked like from the zoning law, it was just where you parked. Because I wasn't sure that a residential lot would need parking, but it did say all uses, so I guess it is triggered.
So that's where a change in the lot line on that side would definitely help out any number of those variants.
Yeah, not so much the front. The front probably is, unless they move the buildings back, but I think that you want to try to keep the existing footprints. And well,
Right.
certainly with the house, you're
Right.
not. What's the size difference between the existing shed and then the new gatehouse? Because it looks a little bigger.
It is bigger, and that's another piece that we would reduce to
Okay.
get more in line with the original footprint. I don't have the square footage of the existing
Okay.
structure.
Okay.
I think that makes sense in the accessory buildings, so for the house.
Right. Yep.
The proximity is nice, it's like a very cozy little property.
Yeah, the intent, the larger site plan is to create an experience into the site rather than just pulling off the main road. There's that, a long path in these undulating hills, and you come in, what is now the back of the property, and you're in this little enclosure, this courtyard.
So I guess a question for the board and also for the applicant. You said that you're considering making changes. How soon are you thinking about making changes? Because I don't want to waste your time, and I also don't want to waste the board's time.
I mean,
But I want to keep the process moving.
Yeah, we're gonna try to get them in before the deadline, the 2-week deadline ahead of the next planning board meeting. So, was that next couple Mondays from now or something?
The next one, you first.
Yeah, I think they're on for
Oh, it's
the
yeah, it's
21st.
The 21st, because they do the second
21st.
meeting in a month.
So ZBA will be meeting before the planning board.
okay.
So one thing that the board could do, and we'll wait for Joe, I'll just go through it right now, but then before we take your vote, is that, it's always, one of the first questions is that this application is complete. And as Catherine had mentioned, it is a fairly comprehensive application, but we also want to make sure that when we publish for the public hearing, that it's also the most accurate, up to date. So we could accept the application, schedule the public hearing, and then if you don't get it in time before the public hearing is done, we can always keep the public hearing open just to make sure that the public has the opportunity to review what the most up-to-date information are, or we could not, we can also say that it's not complete until you get the full set, and then we'll just move forward with that.
If that doesn't create great hardship, I would say there are enough moving parts still that it would be good if we wait to the next meeting.
Get the most
Accept-
current up-to-date
get the most
application.
current up-to-date application, if we accept it.
So does that mean, even if we got it in before,
Well,
2
you would
weeks
still,
before?
you would still need to give it in 2 weeks before to be on the agenda anyway. But this way, the benefit is that we're not, you kind of have a chance to make sure that you are presenting the most up-to-date plans for the ZBA, and also it gives the zoning enforcement officer times to also adjust because when you put the public hearing together, you also need to explain what all your variances are. So the benefit is that it's a month delay for you, but it also provides both for the board and the public the most accurate, up-to-date information.
And it could save you time down the road too, because if a lot of questions were raised, then you have to go back to the drawing board, so if you can get it ironed out now.
I'm happy to do that, it sounds like everyone, it works for everyone.
I just have one question, which is more for your information than for us, but if they want to do a lot line change, doesn't that have to go before the planning board and be reviewed?
Yes, that would be a minor subdivision,
It would be a wet,
a minor subdivision.
and then does that add a bunch of time onto everything, or if they know what they want to do, they can just kind of wrap it up
What would be
together?
most beneficial for the applicant was to have a most complete and up-to-date plan. So if they want to include the lot line, it would be beneficial for them to consider that now, so that you don't get further and then you have to go through another application process with this way everything can kind of move in parallel.
And that's not to say you need to do a lot line that we're recommending that, but if you think you want to do it, you
It
should
would
make
probably
that
reduce a lot of the
decision now.
variances that you need.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I'm happy to.
Okay, so I think for now, we'll say that it's incomplete.
Yes. Yes, you'd like it to be more.
More up to date with what you're proposing. Okay,
So do we need a motion for that?
I think it's your statement that it's incomplete, you're not making a motion that it is complete, so.
I just meant to, for,
I
a
understand.
motion for anything.
I don't think you need a motion, it's not an official action.
To have them back at the next
Yeah.
ZBA meeting. So I'd like to make a motion that we,
You can make a motion that we're declaring it incomplete and the applicant will provide a more up-to-date plan.
like, make a motion that we're finding that, the current application could be more complete. And we are, therefore suggesting that they come back at the, next meeting on September 16th.
Yeah, or whatever, but if you need more time, obviously
Yes.
don't rush it. Make it so that it's what you envision, what you want for front walls.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Yes.
Thank you.
You're very welcome.
Thank you.
Great project. Next on the agenda is Aqua Check. Case 1108, 3805 Route 9G. It is a variance for signage, square footage signs.
Hi.
Hi there.
I'm Desiree. I own Aquacheck Laboratory. Jeff Newman.
Checking with Stony Brook Bank.
Thank you very much for coming today.
You're welcome. We're here today to ask for an area variance so that we can install a sign on the same sign pillars underneath the Four Brothers Pizza sign, which is the building that we share. So what we're asking for is a 4x8 sign that would be directly underneath the Four Brothers Pizza sign.
When this photo is up, in this photo you can see the existing brackets where the previous sign had been, with the cabinet for it.
Oh, I see, yeah, the kitchen floor.
Exactly. So there would be no other changes to the lighting or the structure of the sign, just a new sign installed on the existing brackets. Like that.
Yeah, just like that. We think it would be appropriate for a couple of different reasons. First and foremost, when you are coming to this property either from the north or from the south, the building is not visible until you're literally on top of the entrance to the parking lot. And that area is 55 miles an hour. So we were of the opinion that the sign should be large, it should be easy to see, visible, just to ensure the safety of the motorists that are coming to the laboratory.
And there are photos in the application you've seen that show that approach and the difference between being a couple hundred feet away and being right on the building. And the idea is, the sign is there so that when it's driving and you're looking the direction you're driving, hopefully you down to the map that's going to guide you to where you're going, you see the sign before.
The tricky if you turn it along there. So you can't see any of the front of is there signage, I can't remind me, is there signage on the front of the building as well, other than what you're
Yeah, there's a
proposing
photo of that as well.
for the drop
So-
off?
Oh, sorry.
That's good.
Yeah, so this you cannot see until you pull into the parking lot. It's kind of small, as you can see in the photo.
Oh, right.
It's more instructional, that signage that we put on the front of the building, hours and also instructions about how to utilize the drop box. But you can't see that unless you're in the parking lot.
And is the signage on the glass, is that part of all these calculations?
No.
Okay.
No, we would remove the signage on the glass.
Oh, okay.
So the standing sign under Four Brothers would be your signage for the,
That's correct. We want to utilize the brackets that already exist and put our sign underneath it. Exactly like the cabinet maker's sign for all those many decades.
The business hours and the Dropbox direction, something the same.
Yes.
Right.
But you said the window.
We would remove the window decals, yes. They're not visible anyway. Can't see them until you pull into the parking lot.
Do you happen to have photos of the cabinet, what was there before? Okay, I was just
It's
curious.
interesting. I imagine Google Earth would.
Probably, I was just
Yeah.
thinking Google Earth might have.
He hasn't been gone for long.
Oh, yeah, I think you said
Yeah.
like 2 years or so?
Yep.
Yeah, it's just, I can check Google Earth. But it's the same dimensions as the cabinet?
They took the cabinet maker sign down when we decided to rent the space, and they literally just took it off of the two white pillars.
Okay.
So we're planning to put our sign exactly where his was. Don't want to change the way that was in any way, shape, or form. We just want it to be visible from the road.
we'll check on it
Yeah, I'll see if I can find some, I'm sure you can probably find some.
and see that historical sign.
Is the material gonna be similar? I mean, I'm just looking at the two styles of this sign, they're stacked like that.
It's a bit jarring.
It's a bit jarring.
Between the two,
I know that's a mock-up, but
you know.
is the aqua-check sign, is it gonna be painted wood as well? And
Yeah, we painted wood. I don't know that a background color has been decided.
no, I'm not expecting you to adopt the branding of Four Brothers.
Yeah, this branding is unique to our business.
Yes,
So this is something that I would like to have, is that branding.
Mhm.
The material had not been decided.
Is there some way to make them blend a little bit?
I don't know. I think without changing the nature of my branding versus Four Brothers branding, I'm not sure about that. It is a mock-up, so it's really bright, I think, because it's a computerized photo. If you would prefer, in order to maybe make a compromise so that we can have the sign that we're asking for, that the white background perhaps not be so bright,
I think that would be helpful.
okay, that's fair.
I mean, if you did it in, I assume the Four Brothers Pizza sign is in wood. It looks like it's wood. And are you proposing to have a more maintenance-free material?
I would have preferred that, yeah.
Okay. Because I mean, even just how you frame it, like right now, it has no framing on it, and the Four Brothers is kind of has the molding.
Yes, we would make that fit, obviously,
Yeah.
with the wood. You know, it has to, you'd have to construct it so that it fits on those two wooden pillars.
It also should point out that the infrastructure of the sign is white, although it doesn't appear white in the photo.
That framing is
But
white.
it looks more
Oh,
white.
sure, yeah, no, I realize
Yeah.
you've just taken a
Yeah.
picture and put it in there. Okay.
So in terms of the application, we have all the square footage and inches and.
Yeah, I just had a question on that. So I read the zoning enforcement officer's determination, and the determination made it sound like the square footage sign was like 65.97 square feet, but in your application, you had it at 132 square feet. So I guess I just want, is that like maybe all the signage?
Yeah, totally,
Including-
including Four Brothers existing, right.
Ah, I
right.
see,
So,
okay.
so the property is a little bit unique, in that there are two businesses, which the law treats slightly differently. but we wanted to include the total signage
Okay.
square footage.
So what is this, so I know you said 4 by 8, so what is that,
So
32?
it would be 32 per sign, because the law was at
Gotcha.
6 cents.
That's an interesting question. Whether they need to, I guess they do need to include the square footage for the proposed.
I can look into that, I'm not sure. It don't want to affect your application, but just so that we give you the proper variances and what considered. Yeah, I don't know.
Agree, but it's just, I don't think it was.
It almost seems, yeah, I mean, I guess, if, as you continue discussions, we can always make sure to kind of explain the differences, so it's not like, this is 130 square foot sign.
The new, the building that's the tree service and the.
Oh, data.
The final adjustments.
Mhm.
Right?
Yeah.
We would have a similar situation with the structure with designs for two businesses.
Yeah, actually, I think Mike, the chiropractor, off with Mike's tree service, they were actually in front of the planning board maybe last year or something. But they weren't in front of the, I'd have to look at how the zoning was written. No, they didn't, but they were in front of the planning board, I know, because they were, they was referred to them by the, it's an interesting question, I'll look into that.
I think size-wise, these end up similar to other signs that are on the sheet, like the pastry service and CJ's. So it's
Yeah,
Do we need any other more detailed drawings or anything more?
I know that a lot of times with sign applications, they kind of provide elevation, which kind of, an elevation of it, just to kind of show like what the measurements are. If the board would like that, I think that might be helpful.
And we will do a site visit.
Yeah.
Or just a drive-by if you can lock something out in that space.
We usually do the site visit after the public hearing.
After
So-
the public hearing.
Right, so it wouldn't have to be done immediately, if you want to.
But just down the road.
So to actually put something this close in the space for the sign to go. Interesting.
Ideally.
You just got a piece of.
Yeah, we do have that, like a cardboard, yeah.
So, Kara, I believe you had a motion to accept it, was there a second?
I was just questioning whether we were good.
Yeah.
As far as whether I was stepping in it or not. So I'd like to make a motion to accept this application, case number 8, Aquatech, as complete.
Subject to the elevation,
Subject to
measurements?
Elevation measurements and to the investigation of whether or not
Yeah, that would be, I'll do that, yeah.
the Toll Brothers
Yeah.
signage is included in the totals, should be included in the totals. Do I have a second? All in favor? Aye. Aye.
Hi, thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Have a good evening.
So Kara, we can also do seeker for this. Should be a type 2 action under 617.5 C22, which is installation of traffic control devices, which includes signs.
Did you actually publish them first?
Oh, just to see if they're available, or?
Yeah, they're running out of
We'll track them down.
We can double check them.
that. Anyway,
We're waiting for Gretchen just to confirm their availability for the public hearing. You want to do the motion for the seeker?
Which goes like.
Ask for a motion to classify this as a type 2
Type 2.
action under 617.5 C22.
17.5.
C22.
C22.
It's like bingo.
I'd like to make a motion to accept this as a type 2 application under seeker, under
617.
617.5 C2.
22.
Also known as 22.
Yeah.
Do I have a second?
second.
All in favor? Aye.
Yes, they can be.
Thanks. And what's the date of that, Gretchen?
September 16th.
Oh. Thank you. Okay.
So you can make a motion to schedule the public hearing for September 16th.
I'd like to make a motion to schedule the public hearing for case 1108 for September 16th. Do I have a second? All in favor? Aye.
And then we should be referred out to the Rhinebeck Planning Board, the WAC, and also the Dutchess County Planning Board.
Haven't they, I'm looking at your notes, they haven't all seen this?
Not for this application.
Not for this one,
No,
okay.
we've had a few applications that have been on this route,
Okay,
like foster flooring.
okay.
But this particular, every application has to be submitted.
Okay. So, do we need a motion to make a referral, or we
Yes,
just
please.
like to make a motion to refer this application to Rhinebeck Planning Board, Dutchess County Planning Board, and WAC for their
Comments.
Do I have a second? Second. All in favor? Aye.
And Gretchen, while you were verifying their availability, we made a seeker classification as type 2, and Kara made the motion, and Catherine seconded.
Perfect. Thank you very much. Okay.
Your point person. Point person.
Oh. Anybody want to be point person on this?
I'm away next, the next meeting, so.
I can be point person. Okay. So, with that, am I making a motion to open the public hearings?
We have one public hearing for, right? Oh, no, we have two public hearings. Okay, so, I would open a public hearing for each individual application.
Okay, so I'd like to make a motion to open the public hearing for case 1104 Gabrielle Tenzer, 3 Buttonwood Lane. Is there anybody in the audience about, that is here for that application, either to tell us more about it or to comment on it?
For which application?
Tenzer for 3 Buttonwood Lane.
That's me.
Yes.
So this is my client, attorney, Tom Angel. And we're here requesting a 1-foot variance on your deer fence ordinance that would allow my client to re-landscape her property, protect the plantings that she plans to do there in front of the planning board. And we are seeking your approval for this deer fence. You've seen some mock-ups here on the screen. It's barely visible. It's constructed in a way that it won't really much of an appearance at all. There's no plan to put a gate across the driveway. The plan is to put a cattle guard type structure there. After our last meeting, we moved back the fence, so we were not requesting a setback variance at this point in time. So the site plan was amended to reflect your comments that you made when I first presented. And that's basically our application.
Can you remind us, is any of the fencing visible from the road?
Well, you can see a mock-up. I mean, it's, I think if you look hard, you'll,
This is the one I think I'm remembering.
yeah, you can kind of barely see it, but
Got it.
not very much.
And that's Buttonwood Lane that's running
That's correct.
past that,
Yes,
and that's a driveway.
yes. And I think it could be a little bit further back at this point in time, because I think when we gave you the original photos, we were 50 feet from the front line.
I think think, is there anybody here from the public to comment on this? It's your project, Deb.
No.
Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, please then, Mr. Angel, if you are, I thought he was your client.
No.
Oh, okay.
I
I was like,
really didn't.
okay, totally confused when you
No,
said
I'm
she
sorry.
and,
I've been on the other side of the fence.
Very good, you need a motion.
I don't know how much I know.
It was already been
Oh, we
opened.
did. Did we do a second? Ellen and Kara was
Uh,
making a motion, but never got.
seconded it.
Just do a motion, I close the
I
public.
Sorry.
think Catherine did, and then we were all,
Yeah.
yes. Sorry, Gretchen. Sir, if you'd like to.
My turn?
Yeah.
And if you could just introduce yourself for the record, that'd be great.
My name is Vern Barber. I'm from Skylar Acres, 15 Buttonwood Lane. I'm one of the residents in the subdivision that this property is part of. I don't know how familiar you are with Skylar Acres. It is a 113-acre parcel bordered on the west side by Miller Road, on the north side by the Landsman Kill, on the east side by 140-acre not Bollenbecker, but property, and on the south side by the horse farm. There are 23 lots in the subdivision. 17 are occupied, 6 of them are undeveloped. The 6 are on the north edge that are adjacent to the Landsman Kill. When the subdivision was built, a gentleman who lived across the creek bought all 6 lots that bordered the Landsman Kill to protect them and keep them natural. They are basically in the same condition they were 200 years ago, meadows and woods. The road that, you got it there.
Thank you.
Okay. Let me use the pointer.
Yeah.
All right. So, this area is the part that I just mentioned where the gentleman bought the 6 acres. The Landsman Kill runs through there. This is part of the pond that you would see if you drove into the Skylar Park. Right. So that's undeveloped. This is the area we want to talk about. So Buttonwood Lane comes in, turns, goes up a hill and terminates at a cul-de-sac at the junction of the horse farm. This is all wooded area over here. Essentially, subdivision has been there since the late 1980s, 37 years. And in that 37 years, there have been 35 different property owners, and not one has ever wanted or installed deer fence. And you can say the same thing for the Knollwood subdivision in Rhinebeck Estates. They have been there for 40 years, and no one has ever put up deer fence in any of those 3 subdivisions. And now we have someone requesting to encircle their property with a 7-foot-high deer fence. I'd like to talk briefly about kind of natural aspects that are going to be impacted by this. The normal flow of animal life in here starts over here in what used to be the Sands property. Remember the Sands, the house that burned down years ago was a colonial house? And they move across the road into this area that's undeveloped. And then they move across the road into, guess what? This property. Right? And then they move back into here. All of these houses, if you start here and go around, they're all about 3 acres. And the houses are generally closer to the road, so the back ends of them are all natural. So this area here is about 45 acres. If you take the natural part where the houses are, that's about 25 acres. So that 25 acres is all natural. Right? It's woods, ponds, water, swamp, etc. It has been for 37 years. If this lot is allowed to be encircled with a 7-foot fence, there will no longer be an avenue of movement for the animals into and out of the subdivision from the north. So it effectively blocked any movement of animals. This property here already has fence on it. We had no opportunity to object to that. Right? So if you follow this line, this edge of that property is the primary path for animals moving into and out of the subdivision. Okay? I'll give you an example. Coming out there Tuesday, I had to stop at the road right here. There was a snapping turtle in the middle of the road. It was moving from the pond down here, across the road to the ponds back here. They do it every year. Every summer we have to avoid the snapping turtles migrating from the ponds into there. If that fence is put up there, they will no longer be able to do that. A deer fence, 7 foot high, will block the access for every animal, every 4-footed animal larger than larger than a squirrel. Right? They will not be able to move through that property. It'll be blocked by that fence. Right? They move in here, they wander around, they're free to move. This is my pond. I restrict all the movement in my property in the summer while the geese and the ducks are nesting on the pond and the birds and other animals are having their babies in there. I operate it basically as a nature preserve. For example, the geese nest on that pond. When the little ones are born, they move back here, and they go through here, the front yard of that property. That's grass in the pond, and they feed the babies there. And we all drive in, and we stop and watch them, right? Mama and the 5 or 6 babies feeding on grass. If that fence goes in, they can no longer do that. Right?
I have a question. What other properties along Buttonwood Road are fenced?
On Buttonwood Road,
Well, there's the one to the right, the next one, the next one, the next one.
over here,
You don't think animals would just move to the next property? I mean, I'm
No,
just curious.
because there are houses here, and that, the topography isn't conducive to normal movement like that. They're used to moving on flat surface across. So there's a house right there, there's another one right there, another one right there. So if they can come around here, but they normally don't. They go through here. That's their normal path. The turtles sometimes come out of here and go in a lot there, but they come across here and here and here. This is the primary path for the movement from here into here. They don't normally come over here and go in. None of the deer typically come over here because of this area is mostly a swamp. Okay? So they're inhibited from moving in here. So they move from there easily into here, through my property, up here, and over into the farm.
May I Actually, what is I know that one of the primary objectives of the applicant is to get rid of the invasive species on the property. And I was curious what the state of invasives is on the other open,
What form of invasive species?
Plants.
the plants mostly.
Plants?
The
Yes.
plants, all the, I live in a similar area, we've got,
How is a
plants all over.
7-foot high fence going to remove invasive species?
Well, I think they're doing the work on their property and they're doing landscaping and restoring the wetlands and the deer fences to prevent the deer from eating the landscape that they're putting in.
Because that
We're
landscape,
building to one of my comments.
the native plants are thought to attract native animals. And so they could actually be making it better for birds and butterflies and things like that by getting rid of the invasive species. Anyway,
One of the complaints typically with deer is they're eating my shrubbery. I want to get rid of them because they eat my shrubbery. We have all figured out that problem 37 years ago. You don't plant what the deer like to eat. You plant what they don't like to eat, and then they will pass through your property and not cause any problem and go on their way. We all do that. If they come through my front yard, my side yard, the backyard, in fact, the meadow. So the planting is a way of stopping the damage, but you don't want to stop them moving through. It's their normal life cycle, it's where they live, they've lived there. People don't generally think about it, but the animals have been there since the last ice age. We're the invaders. And we're going to be there a little while. We don't really own the land, we pay to use it. When you're done, someone else pays to use it, and the animals live there forever. In my opinion, it's our job to protect them.
Okay, and I don't mean to cut you off, but I do, typically we do have sort of a 3 to 5 minute limit.
All right, I'm sorry, but I knew there was going to be a time.
It's very,
There is one
very
more
what you're
point.
telling us.
If you see this property line, and this one here, it's mine. If that fence is built, you're essentially fencing my property. Now that little dog leg you see there, I initially owned all of this. And I subdivided and sold these off. And to get that 3 acres, they put this little dog leg in there. Okay? Well, that's a little flat area, that's about 100 feet wide. So putting a fence here, when all of the movement is through there, it's going to block it coming into my property. Okay? And I object. My house sits right there. Right? Just a little side note. Deer, whether you like them or not, although they don't eat anything in my property, I have one that I left there specifically for the deer. It is a miniature peach tree that does not grow peaches the size big enough for people to eat, but they're big enough and the deer love them. They come in when they're ripe, they stand on their hind legs and pick them off and eat them and then spit the seeds out. And they'll go up and get another one and do that. And I sit in my office 30 feet away and watch them do that. And I can look out my kitchen window and watch deer feeding their young on the lower ridge. Afternoon, fox ran up through the wood road. I get to see all of those animals. They're free to roam on my property, and I want that to continue. And if there is a fence put there, that's going to block that. And I do not want that to happen. I've worked for 37 years to make sure the animals are free to move in and out of there uninstructed. And basically, put the fence there, you're fencing my property.
very
And I don't want
much.
that to happen,
Understood.
right?
Thank you very much.
Appreciate the time. One more comment. I'm not sure why the objection, and I'm assuming this is a lady that owns the property, I've never met her. But if the issue is a deer eating shrubbery, I hereby volunteer to purchase deer-resistant plants to replace the ones they're eating on our property. Sans the fence.
I think,
Thank you for your time.
thank you very much. So, that,
Well, is there anybody else speaking on this application?
I don't think so. Is there anybody else? No. So do we discuss?
If you believe you have all the information, you can close the public hearing or continue it if you
Yeah.
have the,
Can we ask for additional information?
if you would like.
And from a third party,
Like what?
like,
The deer
so
crossing?
input. I don't, just putting that out there. Do you guys feel like you have enough information to,
I have a couple of questions
Uh-huh.
for Kim.
Okay.
What's the rule on fencing in this area, deer or otherwise?
The,
Like the property on the left that he said put fencing up, is it height that's driving the
typically it's
variance?
height, it's most likely height. The height limit, so there's two kind of main features for fencing. One is that if it's, let's see, if it's within the rear or side yard setback, the height limit is 6 feet. If it's within 50 feet of the front lot line, it's a height limit of 4 feet. So in this case, the application is doing a 7-foot high fence within the setback. And so, although Mr. Angel, which one, did one of your, did you remove one of the variances?
We did, so
Okay.
we moved back the tip from 50 feet. And I think if you put up the site plan, you'll see that the deer fence isn't the same as the parcel. It's
It's not the
the
same.
same, no, it's
No, actually,
inside
from
the
your-
parcel lines.
and if it's,
I don't seem to have that, that's why I was, they didn't see a
Yeah.
site plan map.
that's an excellent point.
By the way, are there any subdivision restrictions on fencing? Because like,
None that I'm
I don't
aware of,
believe so.
but
in
No,
my
not,
subdivision there is, but you can get it.
I
But,
don't
I mean,
believe
as the
there's
gentleman pointed out, the neighbor has a fence.
I don't seem to have a site, I can see if it's in the application.
And does the deer fence forcibly have to go all the way to the ground?
It doesn't need to go all the way to the ground. You can have trail access.
Just trying to see if I have a, oh, this might be it.
There we go. Okay.
So.
So
What's
the deer fence you can see is the one here.
Yeah, can you use the pointer, please?
I think this is it, right?
Yes, and the property line,
Property line is the dash.
yes.
Let's see if I can get the whole.
So there's, you could call it a wildlife corridor.
So
On
here's,
the right-hand side.
here's the property line.
And the top side is on Buttonwood.
This is Buttonwood, and then the deer fence. is here.
But it actually starts back further than that now.
Right, it goes back
The
50 feet.
Calabrins.
Okay, so you don't need the front yard, the 4-foot limit.
Right,
Gotcha, thank you. The other requirement for fences is that if they're solid fences or like stockade fences, like that allow the passing of the wheels, you need a special use permit. But it's mainly the height limitation.
So I'm sorry, I'm not as good at reading these maps as I would like to be. Does this elevation go up significantly?
It actually goes down there.
It actually goes down.
Yes, that's actually, it's a low area. If the turtles were gonna cross, that's where they would go. It's wet down there.
So,
They wouldn't tend to wanna go up the hill and then go down the hill.
so we'll do a site visit.
Yes, I was just thinking that.
And it would be, I think, really important in the site visit to, I mean, if at all possible, to flag where this fence would go, so that we could walk that area. And particularly, with particular interest in this area right here,
Yeah,
this
so the-
corridor.
So that's wooded area down there. So you'll have a difficult time walking down there, but you can see it.
Is there any way to put anything on the visible on the far side of on the property line, so that if we were standing on the ridge where the fence is actually gonna go, we have an actual sense of where the property ends? Because sometimes it's hard to
So you want the property boundary stakes?
I don't
Yeah.
think you're gonna be able
see
to
it,
see it
because it's that heavy.
despite that's, you're looking at from the cleared area down. I think if you look at some of the photos, you'll get a sense of the density.
Well, let's get the,
So this is the side of the property where the existing fence exists on the neighbor's property.
okay.
And you gotta keep going.
Does your fence run right alongside their fence?
So there you get a sense of the wooded area that's not cleared.
Uh-huh.
So the fence would basically run along you can see proposed.
Yeah, here's the current conditions and then.
So
And there's like 100 feet behind that to the property line.
Correct.
That's the corridor you're talking about.
yes,
Okay.
I don't think you'll really, I mean, you're welcome to come to this for a site visit, but I don't think you'll see
Well,
much more.
I mean, what we usually ask for in a site visit, particularly in a situation like this, and unfortunately it might be a little bit difficult to do, but is to have things staked out.
I mean, if you
So
want
that
it,
we
we'll do it.
So that we
Absolutely.
can see, get an idea of where is that corridor, where is that property line over there, and where is the fence proposed?
I don't think we can stake out the fence. I mean, if you want us to stake out the property line, we can do that too. I don't think you'll be able to see it.
But because it's impenetrable woods.
Well, it's,
We're pretty hardy.
so Melody was there, she was there on the site.
I can add that the planning board, I was part of the site visit from the planning board to this property. It is so wooded in the back. He can stake it out, but you won't see, you just
Okay.
won't see. It is very, very wooded. And
Okay,
the area that he's talking about, which would be on the right on the map,
yeah,
there's a corridor right through there.
but you could mark out where the fence is gonna
We
be,
can do that.
and we can kind of,
I can confirm what he's saying about, how wooded that back area is, how densely wooded it is, and you just won't be able to see.
and then on the next property over, is it wooded all the way up?
So if you're looking at the parcel access map here,
Yeah.
you're looking to the right, there's, you can kind of make out a little bit
Contour.
of a creek bottom there.
Like, down to the end?
No, over to the left.
Here, let me get it, oh, I see, okay, that's,
Yeah, and so you can look over and see the neighbor's property, but it's just because of the contour of the land, it's high, it goes low, and then it goes up high. So you can see the high part, but you can't really see the low
Okay.
part.
okay. All right,
There's no room between the fences between your client's property and the neighbor's fence.
It's basically,
Well, there's a
The
setback,
lines,
right,
the lines would be similar. Their fence is on their property, and my client's probably.
Just for the board's, reminder, so what's being said here is a foot variance from the 6-foot height to the 7-foot. And so when you are reviewing and doing your site visit, you make sure to kind of stick within the 5 factors, including, detriment to the character of the neighborhood, substantiality, impact to the physical nature and stuff.
So, let me ask another question here. I think I know the answer. But if they wanted to do a 6-foot fence all the way around the property, they're back from the setback, they could do that.
Yes. With the exception that I think it's usually, a deer fence is usually to deter the deer from crossing, usually has to be a certain height to prevent them from jumping over. But yes, if they had a
If they
6-foot
wanted to
fence, they would
see
not
if
need
they-
a variance.
If they wanted to do a 6-foot fence
Yes,
and hope their deer aren't real
jumpers,
jumpers,
they're way too.
We're not, other people have been before you for 8-foot fences.
Yeah.
Yeah.
understood, okay.
And I
No,
mean,
no,
just
unless
to,
other people haven't had neighbors come in, so,
but, the deer are also pretty resilient that they will find a way as well.
I do think animals are pretty clever. Okay,
Okay,
I think I know what I need to know.
so I make a motion to close.
Yeah.
Yes,
Okay,
Yes.
So do you have
They
something?
can do something, right? So, they want 7, but that guy can't stop them from doing some kind of fence.
Yeah, it could be a
Correct.
6-foot fence, yeah.
and I think-
Or if it's even outside of the setback, they could have a 7-foot as well. I don't know how close it is to the side yard setback.
And I think there are turtle crossing solutions out there from the various things that I've attended that we can accommodate, or you can accommodate.
Yeah, but, Blake finds a way.
Because it is important, but I do think the deer will also find their ways. So with that, I'd like to make a motion that we close the public hearing on 1104 Penzer on 3 Buttonwood Lane and schedule a site visit.
Well, yeah, let's do one motion at a time. Sorry.
Simple and efficient.
I second.
do I have a second?
I do, I
Thank you.
second.
All in favor? Aye. Yeah, you're sick.
And then,
Okay. And then I'd like to.
Yeah,
We don't need a motion.
You don't need a motion for a site visit,
Yeah.
but you guys usually do discuss it,
Yeah.
where you would usually do it the Saturday before the.
Yes, absolutely.
September 12th,
September 12th.
if that works for you,
and at 10 a.m. works.
or for your client, and if you think you can get that
No, we'll
fencing
make
mark.
sure, because that's available. I don't know that I'll be there, but, the landscape architect or someone else will be there.
Okay,
10 a.m. is good.
We'll make arrangements.
great.
Thank you very much.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, we usually try to do them in the morning, selfishly.
I think they're gonna try to accommodate 10.
Okay. Great.
Thank you very
All
much.
right, and do you want the full fence staked out or just this one on the side that faces this corridor?
Well, the one on the west already has a fence on it,
Right,
so I don't think we need that.
so
Just something they should-
is this the line that you want staked out?
Yes,
And then is it easy to understand where the back property line is?
It's basically the cleared area is where the fence is going around.
Okay,
Maybe just putting like one stake at the corners might be helpful.
yeah.
it's a 3-acre property, right?
Correct.
So,
But if you can see the property line, it's bigger than the fence.
yes, but if you state the corners of where the fencing goes, maybe
All
everyone,
corners? I mean,
if you could, yes, please.
okay. All right,
Because the property line comes down below it,
it
right?
does.
Yeah, so to understand where this is, this side, we'll see the other neighbor's fence.
Right,
So it's primarily on this side and back there.
But just the distance from the other neighbor's fence, that's the other thing I'm curious about. Because if you're not in your setback, that means you've got, what, 50 feet from the property line. Is that
I
right,
think
Sam?
you were planning on the left side, put it
There-
right next to
you-
you.
We changed the fence from the buffer woodland to the front setback.
The
Oh,
side yard
just-
setback is
Okay, so
still,
everything else, that's.
This is not,
He needs a height variance.
this is where the main setback comes from. So it's really not even the back, honestly, because the back is more than 50 feet. It's really, this is your focus for the variance.
So, yeah,
I just think, you've heard that the concerns were raised by the neighbor, so I think anything that you think will reasonably help us be comfortable that the animals will be able to circulate,
I know.
and that it's, not.
so we'll take the corners for you.
Okay.
Okay,
So great.
very good.
Thank you
Thank you
very
very
much.
Thank you.
Have a good evening.
So, Kara, before we move on, just a quick, so the planning board, responded and found no significant planning or environmental, concerns. So I know that you will be looking at this on a site visit, but do you have some initial discussions or, deliberations that you have for this, so I can start working on a resolution, subject to your site visit?
I think the neighbor's concern very seriously, but but if there is enough room for animal movement, I think they, I don't have any additional
Are you meaning-
points to make, I mean, I think, so the reasons why we would think it was okay for them to have the resolution should be, why do you think?
So your
They should have
your
their-
main question in considering in granting or denying an area variance is, first of all, an overall balance between if the area is there, if the area variance is granted, what the benefit to the applicant is versus the
Yeah.
detriment to the neighborhood.
Yeah.
And then with that, you look at the 5 factors of,
Of course.
is there,
Yeah,
an undesirable change in the neighborhood? Is there an alternative that the applicant could do that's feasible that doesn't require a area variance, substantiality, physical impact to the environment of the district, and self-created harm?
absolutely, but I don't think we can do any of that until we've seen the property,
Okay.
because,
So would you suggest then that you do the site visit and then do deliberations at the September meeting and not have a resolution prepared? So I just need direction as to
Yeah,
if you
no,
want
I-
me to be
that's-
granting it or not. And I do wanna just,
yeah,
that is a point, I'm not sure exactly how far it is, but again, the variance is because of, this, in the side setback, so it's kind of this. I know you were kind of talking about the rear and this side, but, those are actually within the setback, so they could build.
they can
Higher.
do, it's really, it's just the side.
It's really just, it was this because it's right on the property line, and then it was initially up here because of the setback.
So if,
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah, because it's, again, the way that the code is written is not just that you can't have a fence that's 6 foot high. It's,
you can't have it within the setback.
yeah, it's,
So the
Fences, gates, and-
conceivably move the fence into the setback.
well, yeah, with the exception that I think if they want to protect their plants and landscaping, they have the landscaping right up here. I think that if they put the fence outside of that, then they're not deterring the deer if that is what they're trying to do.
And there's already a fence there, you're saying. So I
I don't know where the
well,
fence is.
that's what they told us, that's where the neighbor's fence is, right?
I think
Or if I got it.
Unfortunately, I think we
No,
have
that's
to
that.
look at it.
Okay. Well, like I said, listen, we have 60
Yeah.
days from the close of the public hearing to issue, this, and if you feel like you need to do the site visit to have a better understanding, then we can have the deliberations, at the September meeting, and then I can prepare, with your directions, I can prepare the resolution for October.
Or we can deliberate.
And mind you too, when you deliberate and I draft a resolution, it is a draft
Yes.
resolution, of course, and I can always draft it in a particular way. And then if you do the site visit and you say, let's go the other way, we can do that too.
Can you do 2 versions?
If you give
She
me,
just makes good changes.
I mean,
But
I guess if you, I can certainly draft 2 resolutions, but I would need directions from you as to pro or against so that I know how to draft it for you.
Okay.
I mean, my impression before listening to the neighbor was not a problem. You know, I mean, I do think animals are fairly clever, and I think there's been lots of studies of animal traffic patterns that show, you know, when I want to keep them out and I put something here, they find another place to go. So, at the same time, I'd like to be sensitive to that, and I'd like to look at the site to see what I think. But,
Yeah.
that's my
Yeah.
initial.
I think I think the fencing's probably fine. For those same reasons, I think if that is a wetlands there to the one side, I think if they can make some accommodations for the movement of wildlife that does move between the key areas, you know, that would be great. But on the whole, it's private property and they should be able to landscape the way they want.
No, I mean, I know firsthand what having a deer fence does for landscaping versus not having a deer fence. I mean, it's a huge difference in what you can do.
I'm like the neighbor's school. If they don't eat it, I grow it.
So is that helpful, Kim?
He's not, I mean, his land isn't actually adjacent to the same one too, right? It's, on 20.
Yes, and it seems that other,
Other
there's also
driveways
east, west,
exist,
and
he
south.
says. Yeah, it's stating that there's only one way, and I don't know, it's actually. You're all over the
Okay.
Okay? Thank you all who worked through that.
Did we close the public hearing?
Yes, we did.
We did, okay.
Okay, so the last public hearing for the evening, I'd like to make a motion to open the public hearing for case 1101 Brookmead. Sean is at the ready.
Good evening.
Approach.
I'm just going to hand a petition to Gretchen that was signed by some community members. I emailed it earlier, but it's hard copy.
And Kara, before we, you want to open the public hearing?
I did, but I didn't ask
Oh.
for a
But it's,
second.
it was already
It's a
open. It
continue,
was never
it's a continue,
closed.
yeah,
Yeah.
well, it's a continue, so you make a motion to open the continue.
Okay, I'd like to make a motion to continue the public hearing for Brookmead. Do I have a second? All in favor? Aye.
Okay. Good evening, Sean Kemp on behalf of the community at Brookmead. We were here last time for a pretty spirited public hearing, and I was here in May to outline what was at issue. This is concerning an appeal from a notice of violation that was issued by the zoning enforcement officer in late March of 2026. I don't really have anything further other than the petition to add to the record. I would ask that the board has had an opportunity to hear the public speak. My personal opinion that there was overwhelming support in favor of Brookmead, and I think that there are legal limits to what can go on at that property, and your council will obviously advise you about what those limits are. But there's also a considerable amount of discretion that you have in determining what's an accessory or incidental and subordinate use. And also discretion in determining how the resolution that was previously passed by the board should be interpreted. And I would just respectfully request that this board exercise that discretion and grant the least restrictive interpretation to the community at Brookmead. With that said, I thank you all very much for entertaining the application. If there's any further questions, Kim, if you happen to have questions while you're kind of going through things, you know, you can always contact me.
Yes, thank you.
You know, I remain available, but otherwise, from our perspective, it's fully submitted. Thank you.
very much, Sean. Is there anyone else here from the public who would like to speak?
Do you have any questions to Sean or the applicant? I had actually a question on, in your initial application, you were talking about how the ZBA has, in your arguments, that they have discretions to look back at the previous ZBA decision from 2025, and you had provided in your application your thoughts as to how the ZBA could interpret accessory structures and the fundraising. Would you mind perhaps just discussing that with the board, what your opinions is on that? Like you said, like, you know, looking at fundraising, you could look at, you know, 5 factors or something like that.
Yeah, I mean, there's
Yeah,
not the factors off the top of my head. I think you might have asked it, but.
It's right here. I don't know.
Well, this was my proposed interpretation of what the board could consider. You know, because like I said, it's not like you can just, Brookmead should be able to do whatever it wants at the property. There are restrictions that are in place, and we're mindful of the fact that it is a pre-existing non-conforming use, so there's further kind of restrictions to that. But essentially what I was saying is that with respect to some of the events that were at issue and any other events that we'd like to hold there, is that, you know, in order to have, there's been some discussion about Brookmead being turned into some type of profit center, right? With having the use of the pavilion translate into some other type of stream of revenue. And Brookmead's position is no, to a certain extent it is, because it helps fund our programs, but it's not like some type of corporate activity that's going on there. It's not a corporate enterprise. So what I had in mind, and these are just suggestions obviously, is that one, the events that would be considered are sponsored, controlled, or formally co-sponsored by Brookmead or the Brookmead Community Foundation. And the co-sponsorship happens a lot, sometimes with like a chamber event and a Brookmead event, or something to that effect. 2 was the primary beneficiary is Brookmead, the Brookmead Community Foundation, or Brookmead's nonprofit senior care, adult day, resident health and wellness, or senior community programming. So that kind of ties the event to what's going, you know, what is being provided by the community at Brookmead. 3rd is that the event remains incidental and subordinate to the principal campus use and does not materially interfere with resident care, adult day programming, campus operations, parking, traffic circulation, or neighborhood conditions. Again, this is going to show that the events are, you know, whether it's fundraising or any other event, that it's related to what's going on on the community, on the campus, and it's not related to some totally unrelated thing like a wedding, right? Because we kind of went over that the first round of this, and it's clear that that type of use is not permitted. And then 4th is that the event is not marketed or operated as a general commercial rental of the pavilion. Again, this speaks to the private celebrations and weddings. And outside fundraisers or unrelated public entertainment. Okay, so it's really making sure that it's tied to the use of the campus, which is a senior living facility. And 5th is that the event is conducted within reasonable limits as to frequency, scale, hours, parking, management, and noise. There was some discussion that I had, it might have been with the zoning enforcement officer I believe it was, but he raised the idea of like, well, Sean, if you have a fundraiser every day, like, doesn't that start to make it look like it's more of a business? And I tend to agree with that. You know, if it's every single day and it's like, okay, here's another fundraiser, and it starts to look and feel more like there's some type of business or profit center that's going on here. The events that are being challenged by the zoning enforcement officer, though, were all tied to some type of holiday. We had St. Patrick's Day, and then the Mardi Gras, Easter Bunny, the breakfast with the Easter Bunny, and then of course we had the craft events that are tied to either like the winter holiday season, and then they usually would have one in spring, summer, warmer months. But they're not something that is like, okay, well, it's not a farmer's market, right? We're not trying to do a craft fair or a fundraiser every single weekend. We're just trying to kind of have an improper use of the property to have like a commercial enterprise, like I've said in the past. So those were just some ideas that I had, because like I said, the board is in a unique position to exercise this discretion and come up with, some clarity with respect to the other resolution. And it happens a lot, things are written and you think that they're clear at the time and everybody's in agreement, and then an issue pops up like we're dealing with now, and all of a sudden it's like, well, maybe we need to revisit this and make it a little bit clearer. So I think that's kind of one of the main points about being able to exercise the discretion with respect to the interpretation of the prior resolution, but then also taking a step back and saying, okay, big picture, did we miss anything the first time around? Let's try and see if we can solve this once and for all. And I would only note that the Community Foundation, we have made some progress with approaching the town for zoning ordinance. I think I only say that for informational purposes. I don't say that to try and unite the two at all. I think that Brookmead's rights to use the property as a pre-existing non-conforming use and have these other accessory uses, I think that's separate and apart from what could be done at the zoning level. So I think that it's important for the board to understand that the issue before it is not like, oh, well, the applicant's going to the town, maybe, they'll just get a zoning amendment or something like that and have to solve the problem. No, that may or may not occur. I hope we are able to get to that point, but if it doesn't, we are pre-existing non-conforming use, 75 acres in the RC5 district, historically used for, what we are today, a senior living facility or a senior care facility. And, we need better guidance. And I think the town even needs better guidance from an enforcement perspective as far as what's permitted and what's not. And I know it's a lot to put on your plate. You're all volunteers, I'm mindful of that. But I also respect you very much for taking the time to do the hard work and, with Kim's assistance, to try and formulate, the best possible resolution.
Can I ask some questions about, and I know you want to keep them separate, but
Yeah.
they're not entirely separate in my mind, what you are going for the town for, or has it even gotten far enough that you can say that?
So it's in the early stages. The good news is, if you want to go down that path, I'm more than willing to talk about it.
Well, I'll tell you why, go ahead.
Yeah, no, so for many years now, I've attempted to reach out to the town in order to discuss this issue, because there's a policy that we don't want to expand pre-existing non-conforming uses, right?
There's certainly an attitude about that.
Within reason, right? So the idea is having such an expansive campus in the RC5 and you want to be careful about how I say this. So having such an expansive use in campus in the RC5, which is clearly non-conforming, I'm not sure why it wasn't dealt with at the comprehensive plan level, because it was a senior care facility then. And if you look at the zoning and comprehensive plan, and you look at that gateway east as you come into the village, there are particular parcels that are like, you can have a flower shop type thing. There just happens to be a flower shop there, right? So I think that they were looking at what was there and they were kind of including that in the comprehensive plan, which is all fine and good. But they didn't think to look at Brookmead, which is an issue. And that's what we're dealing with today, because this is a very, I mean, the infrastructure is incredible for the facility. It has its own sewer treatment plant. The water is village water, if I'm not mistaken. But, you know, all the buildings and things like that, this is a, we're not talking about a couple of stick-built structures. So there are significant improvements that are there. So anyway, I approached the town on a couple of occasions. Didn't really make a lot of progress. This past December, I appeared before the town board, and I requested the opportunity to meet with either the planner or members of the town board to just have a discussion. Because in my view, and aside from being an attorney that is in this area, even before that in undergrad, I've studied land use policy and things of that nature. And I've always been of the opinion that, you know, good policy is not developed in a vacuum. Good policy is not developed by one person sitting by themselves trying to figure out, you know, what I can do. I mean, the RC5 district is probably greater than 70% of all parcels of land in our town, right? So you do one tweak to that district, it could have pretty big consequences. So I wanted to engage in that dialogue. Unfortunately, that didn't really pick up steam for whatever reason. Then I was able to speak with, recently, I submitted an application for a pre-application meeting after speaking with, I think, the town attorney. And there was his suggestion that we could do something like that. So I spoke with Jim Levy, a few members of the planning board were there. We're just trying to, we're in the early stages. I'm very kind of optimistic because I have spoken to a town board member that is expressed a desire to have that conversation, which I greatly appreciate. So that's where we're at, but it's in the very early stages. And even if we were further along, that's a very long process. It's not something that like you just, here's the new ordinance, it's gotta be well thought out, especially when we're dealing with so many properties. I mean, there's creative ways that we can deal with it that you know, are not akin to any type of spot zoning or things like that, but it's a discussion that needs to be had, and you know, in the time being, I think it's only fair that the community of Brookmead is given the guidance that it needs so that they don't operate in such a way that like they're always afraid of, you know, having a fundraiser for something that seems like very benign, having to call me and say, oh, is this okay? And you know, my interpretation of it is, yeah, and then if there's a different interpretation, then we end up here. So, you know, anything that you can do to help provide that clarity, and of course, the least restrictive interpretation is what we would prefer. But I do understand that there's, you know, there has to be reasonable restrictions on it, and that's kind of what I put in my submission. It was just to try and get the ball rolling, to think about how we can deal with this, because it's, I mean, it's an asset, you know, and I don't have to repeat everything that we heard the last time we were here, but I really can't overstate the importance that Brookmead has, not only for the people that it serves, but for our entire community.
Thank you, Sean. And I'm glad that in whatever infant stage discussions are happening, because I think that is the path to a real solution. And I don't know, Joe, were you on when we went through this before? Because Carol, I know you were on the CPA. I don't think so.
I might have been on a trip, because I was going,
Yeah, he was on the board.
Was
I
it?
was on board, but I think
Yeah.
I was on a trip somewhere. so
Okay.
I
You,
didn't go.
Joe, Scott, Richard.
And Brian,
And Brian.
Brian.
Oh, yeah.
So, because I went back and I read the 28-page resolution that we wrote before, and I actually thought it was pretty clear. And I thought there were some things that very specifically said for you not to have, and Kim, help me if I'm misremembering my own rereading of this, you know, and one of them was craft fairs. So, and I think what we tried to do in that resolution and in that whole discussion, and let me just stop for a second. The support for Brookmead as an institution, as a community, in terms of the work that you do, is crystal clear. The fact that it's an asset to the community as it is, regardless of how the pavilion is used, is also crystal clear. I mean, there's a huge service that's done. However, some of these things got missed, they did, and there's some very specific guidance in the zoning law, and so we tried to go back to also what was granted by the planning board and adhere to some very specific activities that they mentioned, and I just remember Scott saying, even though that may have actually been an error on the part of the planning board, and everybody forgive me if I'm getting some of these things wrong, they did mention those things, they called them out, they said you could do these things, and we didn't want to lessen that. So we tried to stay within that narrow framework that had already been established in 2017. But I think we were relatively clear in trying to stay in that framework. Do you agree, Kim?
Yeah, so with the 2025 resolution from the ZBA, one of the questions that was really the main point was trying to just determine what, so in 2017, Brookmead came before the planning board to get the adult day camp, which is where the pavilion, erect the pavilion and was gonna have the adult day camp. And then the 2017 planning board application, in addition to the adult day camp, also said Brookmead accessory uses. And I think the question that had popped up from that was, we know what an accessory use is, what's a Brookmead accessory use? And that's where we kind of went through the history of the events that took place. We also went through the 2017 planning board review process to kind of see what was represented that was anticipated to be there. And with the 2025 ZBA decision, there were essentially three main points that it went through. One was discussing what the Brookmead accessory uses that were allowed with, and a lot of it was talking about how it had to have a nexus or a connection to the principal use as an accessory use would have.
Rhinebeck at home.
Well, yeah, it was about, I mean, like,
Vaccines, and there was a
yeah,
number of
that was actually even also within the planning board's resolution from 2017, but it was more of like, if you were to have lectures or educational courses that were geared towards, you know, aging in place or anything to that effect, or I think there was like veteran celebrations and to that extent, something that had that nexus to having Brookmead as the senior living facility.
Yeah.
Then there was, as you mentioned, Catherine, we looked back at the 2017 application where there were certain organizations that were discussed, like Rhinebeck at Home, having it as a polling place, blood drives, and the ZBA had kind of felt that those were explicitly stated, and even though they might not have that clear nexus to Brookmead as the principal use, it was represented and it was known at the time, so that was allowed to kind of continue as a Brookmead accessory use, more so than maybe an accessory use. And then the third criteria was the activities that the board felt didn't have that nexus or connection, which included the craft fair, for example, I think it
Weddings
included,
and-
yeah, weddings, the weddings also because we didn't want it as a special event venue, which is not allowed in the RC5 district. And also, in Rhinebeck, you're not allowed to have two principal uses on a singular lot, so that was the other issue too. So that was kind of how the resolution was drafted, it's kind of like explaining what an accessory use was that was allowed and how it could be determined with that nexus or connection to the principal use. Then it was talking about uses that were considered to be permitted because it was represented when they granted their approvals from the planning board in 2017, and then those uses that were not listed. Now, I think one of the questions that is brought up by this notice of violation that was issued is fundraising. And I haven't reviewed the minutes from the last time this application was in front, but I think one of the concerns was, you know, we didn't want it to be, as Sean had mentioned, you know, we didn't want it to be that, oh, we're gonna rent it out for a birthday party or graduation party, but we're collecting funds that will be used for the
By
Brookfield
the
Foundation, because at what point is it a fundraiser that's connected to the use, or when is it a rental, for lack of a better phrase, but that was, I think, the concern, so we didn't address
Because you could have,
fundraisers specifically in that, but it also wasn't really a question at that stage, and that's what the notice violation in this case is, that there were several fundraisers, the takeout dinners for St. Patrick's Day, Mardi Gras, and then the Easter Bunny, and then the craft fair, which, as you mentioned, was specifically excluded from
right,
in the 2025 position.
yeah, because, I mean, so, and because of the nuances of the zoning law, and obviously all this discussion is relatively, I think, complicated. It's, when I read the letters and I listen to everyone speak on behalf of Brookmead, what's desired by the members of the community who support Brookmead is very open.
Well,
It feels to me
there
like
is still-
it feels very open to me.
Well, I think that what you need to focus on is what we're requesting in our letter. The public, and many of them are lay members of the public, they're out to show their support for Brookmead. That I can tell you that one of the reasons why so many people showed up was because the craft fair was canceled, because they couldn't have the breakfast with the Easter Bunny. So they're showing up to say, don't issue these violations. I think that's pretty specific, you know? And I think to put the burden on the public to show up and say, well, this should be my interpretation, or this is what the board should advance is a little bit different, you know?
I don't think that's what Catherine's saying.
That's not what I was saying at all.
So
I'm trying
I'm sorry if I misunderstood.
I'm trying to acknowledge the public input while also reiterating the narrow focus that we have to talk about.
I think what a lot of, Catherine, please correct me if I'm wrong, but I think one of the things that has been presented by the public is all the use and utility that the pavilion can have, which may extend perhaps beyond, you know, like having it as meeting rooms, you know, for the beekeepers, as an example. Or having it as an available space to be using for the community.
Right.
Is that what you're, is that what you are?
Yeah, thank you.
The desire to have, yes, I think that a lot of what has been brought up in the course of the public hearing is stuff that is outside the scope of what it is that you are here to decide. So, I don't know if you wanted, I mean, which is really hard, because it would be really nice to be able to say, we do need community space, and we do need this, and we do need that, and go on. But I think that even with an reinterpretation of things is not what is before us at the moment. But I think that one of the things that sort of intrigues me is this use of the nexus requirement, And I'm wondering if perhaps you have ever considered doing a schedule of events for the course of a year that would allow you to promote them more effectively and get more out of them, that could be agreed with the zoning board, that, you know, the nexus is there and that everybody agrees that it fits in the requirements, and then you just go ahead, and if you see flyers around town, you know that it's been approved. Do they plan far enough ahead for us to operate
Sure.
something like that?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if a year, if they go out a year all the time, but yeah, these events are not just willy-nilly, you know, thrown together. There's a lot of coordination that goes into it because it serves a lot of people. So it's definitely not like, oh, Labor Day is coming up, so why don't we see if we can do a Labor Day takeout dinner, you know? It's not like that at all. So I think that something along those lines is something that we would definitely consider.
I think, I just want to just kind of, I didn't mean to cut you off, Sean, but I know that at the 2025 decision, one of the things the board had asked for was like that list of what events had taken place. Maybe something that might be helpful for the board is like a list of what your fundraisers, desired activities, what your fundraisers are, and that might also, even if it's not so much a black and white list, it's perhaps a way to put like those, I don't want to say boundaries, but you know, those, the board could then take what that list is of anticipated events that would take place, decide how that nexus connection plays for it to be an accessory use, and then perhaps build a foundation around that might be helpful with that list.
I think that could be a very good idea.
I think that, I mean, even when I look, and I appreciate that this is a proposal. This is like, you could look at it this way. That the event is sponsored, controlled, or formally co-sponsored by Brookmead. You know, I think the thing that at least I'm afraid of, or you know, you anticipate could go that direction, is you could be a co-sponsor of almost any public event. You know, and as long as it can be managed in that facility, it's like, oh, good. And maybe that's something that can come out of the discussion with the town. But I think, you know, we view our role at this point is not to effectively rewrite the zoning so that, yes, it's okay in RC 5 to have a community center and this other property operating, because it's not.
No.
You know, or an event center that really functions as an event center, because it's not. So, you know, we're trying to find that narrow space.
Correct, and that's why I thank the board for, it's a little bit of a lift for sure to dig into that. But and it's not that we're requesting to rewrite anything, it's about the interpretation that exists. And for that interpretation, there is a lot of discretion that's given to a zoning board of appeals. And with that interpretation, there's also guardrails, which, you know, Kim will be able to advise you about as far as like, this is too far or whatever. But I think as far as opening up dialogue or getting more wheels turning as far as with respect to the types of events, I think that's a great idea, and that's something that I could provide to the board very easily.
I mean, I really think that this situation calls for black and white, at least in the first year, so that we can all get comfortable with how everybody's interpreting things and things run smoothly. So I would invite,
I mean, I really think that the 2025 resolution was pretty good. So if the problem that we missed or that we didn't address was fundraising, which has, I think, been a lot of the focus of the discussion, then let's really define what seems to be permissible there.
Yeah, I think that,
you know,
I think it was
to me, I think every organization that's a nonprofit has to figure out fundraising. I mean, that's, you know,
Sure,
the black and white event that you have seems like that's totally controlled by you, that's totally, you know, managed by you.
Is that a follow?
Yeah, your annual dollar.
Yeah.
So I don't think there's been any question about that.
I believe at the because I think your gala was coming up at the end of the 2025 one. I think we had said that made sense that, you know, didn't make sense for you to have to frankly ball and stuff like that.
yeah,
So I
that
think- I think
was,
and I
that
think
was,
that went
I
off
think,
fine.
yeah, I think that there was a little bit, I think it is overall, 2025 is good work. It's a good work product. I think there are some inconsistencies in it that give rise to some debatable topics. And, you know, as far as us being able to host our own gala there, yes, we were able to do that, and that's not a problem.
That's not.
And then that went
I mean,
off,
that's
and there
like
was
the
no
one end
notice
of the
violation
fundraising.
issue for that.
Spectrum, you know.
No, I'm sorry?
Your gala for this year, there was no violation cited for that or anything.
That's correct.
Yeah.
No, I mean,
Which the public can attend, just so that we're clear.
Right, but I mean, that kind of event, to me, that's at one end of the fundraising spectrum, where it makes perfect sense, it has a total nexus with your overall operating or supporting the program overall. And so there's not a question about that. But then, at a craft fair or something like that, where it's like some portion of the proceeds benefit the foundation, that feels to me like at the other end, there could be one a week. I mean.
Well, and that's why I said.
That's, you know, so that's, I think, why we're trying to wrestle with it.
Sure, and that's why I specifically referenced frequency as something that should be controlled, and I think that's even, it's in one of my bullet points there, number 5. You know, there definitely should be reasonable limits on frequency, time, hours, things of that nature, for sure. I'm definitely not coming here asking the board to say, well, if it's a fundraiser, if you call it a fundraiser, then you can do it. That I'm not suggesting that in any way.
I'm not sure that the issue is strictly about fundraising events. I think it's events that are open to the public.
Well, I think.
I'm sorry, but that's why we're here, I think, because the zoning enforcement officer was like, this is an event that's open to the public,
And that's not
and that's not allowed. And the rebuttal is, it's a fundraiser, it's clearly subordinate and incidental to our primary use, so it should be allowed, because we know from the last resolution that the Chamber of Commerce, who's not even, I mean, it's an organization in town, but they were allowed to have their Good Egg Award, correct, and that's a fundraiser. So it would seem odd to me that we would elevate somebody that has no real rights to our property, other than, you know, the community, we're friends with them, and, you know, we're friends with other not-for-profits, but why would we,
Well,
why would an outside
actually, what, I
Right.
just wanna just explain
Yeah.
why, so the 2025 interpretation appeal came because of the Good Egg event. And that goes to that second point in that 2025 decision, was that in the 2017 planning board approval, the Rhinebeck Chamber of Commerce was specifically listed.
Sure, no,
And that's how it came, so it
Yeah.
wasn't that it was just because, you know, the board supported the Chamber of Commerce, or because it was a worthy organization, it was because it was specifically listed in the 2017
correct.
planning board
And
application.
I'm
which
not
is how
saying
it
that
was timed.
the chamber was given preferential treatment by this board. What I'm saying is that the ZEO's interpretation of that resolution, to say that we can't have our own fundraising when other organizations were identified as being able to have fundraising on our campus, just doesn't make sense. How do you reconcile that? How can you say that, well, you're a not-for-profit property owner and your fundraising is not allowed, but this other not-for-profit organization that was identified that actually came from a cover letter from the architect
Yes,
that, right?
in the minutes, it was also in the minutes, we did a
No,
lot of
I know, and I did a lot of research myself, so I know exactly what you're talking about. But I think that we can get to a point where we say, okay, this doesn't necessarily make sense to preclude us from having fundraising activities and allow somebody else to do that. At the very least, I think that the resolution needs to be revisited to clarify that.
I think the latest violation was about the craft fair, right?
No, it was about it was craft fair, breakfast with the Easter Bunny,
Was all those
the, I'm sorry?
Yes, it was all, they were all advertised, that's why.
Yeah.
And so I believe the dinners may have taken place, but the craft fair was canceled and the
Breakfast.
the Easter Bunny breakfast was
Yeah.
canceled. But I think that the dinners went through, and I believe what the concern was as, it was the fact that with like the dinners, it was just the public kind of coming, picking up the dinner and then leaving, kind of, doesn't have,
That's what the American Legion does very often. It's churches do it, fish fries, all types of things. There was, I think, 15 people that attended each of those, and the great majority of those were our own employees or campus residents. And I'm not hearing, I heard some opposition to Brookmead, very few, but I'm not hearing about traffic issues, I'm not hearing about noise, any types of complaints. I foiled the town to find out what complaints have been received. There was maybe a reference to one complaint, no formal written complaints on record of saying this is unacceptable. I think we noted before when we had the voting, we had over 5,000 people come through the campus. So, on that occasion, it's okay to, wear and tear on our building, wear and tear on our resources. That's okay. We don't get paid anything for that. That's something that we allow to happen. And quite honestly, it's like, well, we're good when we need something for Brookmead, but then, Brookmead wants to do something, all of a sudden, it's like, well, we gotta look at this a little bit more closely, and I respect that. I understand that there are boundaries, but there's also reasonableness.
Yeah.
And that's all I'm asking for the board to exercise.
and I think that's one of the main questions that perhaps the board should consider. As Sean said, they're not saying that everything that, what you were saying is that you don't want it to just be, oh, we slap our names on this and now it's a fundraiser. So I think that, there does have to be some sort of, perhaps, like I said, a foundation to kind of better understand what's permitted if the board wants to do that. But again, just to say, the voting was again in the 2017 resolution. And I'm just
No, I know,
explaining that I want you to
but,
think that we're picking and choosing, because the board, when they decided that, was that they were kind of giving you guys a bit of a softball of saying, this really
We
isn't
don't
an
wanna take
accessory
anything
structure,
away.
but we realize you've made these representations and we wanna let you continue doing them. So, I just wanna say it's not like they're picking and choosing, there was a limitations set forth, and I think the board wanted to try to be as fair to Brookmead as they can, and, not have it thrown back in our face, which is kind of what it's doing, because again, we're just trying to,
I don't think it's being thrown back in your face from the Brookmead perspective at all. I think that an unreasonable interpretation by the zoning enforcement officer is what brought us here today. That's what I think. And that's why I'm asking the board respectfully to overturn with the notices of violation, to revisit to the extent necessary, to the extent that you deem it's necessary, to revisit the resolution. I'm not suggesting that we're coming back here saying, you got it wrong, because we didn't. We would have, we had other means if we thought that you got it wrong,
Yeah.
right? And we worked together very well last time around, and I was very appreciative of the process. And if it's helpful to provide that, list or to engage in any type of dialogue whatsoever, to just help get a little bit of clarity,
Yes.
be greatly appreciated.
I think a list of
Yes, I would like to see if something we can ask for.
sure,
Overturn the variance. I mean, that would be my,
what do we overturn the variance?
the violations.
Oh, the violations, okay.
With the condition that we move forward with an agreed calendar.
Well, before we, I guess, do you wanna see what the list is first? You just wanna ask what the list
If
is
you want
first?
to, if you
I think that'd be helpful.
can do that, that would be helpful, yes.
Sure.
If we're working from a list of things that you feel like are in the gray area,
Well, I mean, I guess the whole question is what's the gray area and what's the black and white, so.
yeah.
If you're not gonna make a list that you think is in the gray area, right? Because then we wouldn't be here. So if you make a list and that we can consider it together and say, you know, you have these concerns about this and these 7 things or whatever it is fine, then I think then we, like I said, we can all get comfortable with how the fundraising and other activities with the Nexus can be conducted on the Brookmead campus.
I think we want to avoid, and I'm sure you do as well, being where we say something kind of general.
Yeah.
And
Exactly.
then there's like no specific guidance about, does this thing that we're doing fit into that or not? You know, so I think we want to try and,
Take away the guessing.
yeah,
Yeah, I agree.
you know.
Sean, and I think, excuse me, Matt?
Yeah, the public hearing's still open.
Oh, thank you. I think.
Would you mind just
Yeah.
coming up here?
Sorry. Thank you. Karen Stritt with the Brookmead community, and thank you for your time for hearing this again. I think what occurred in 2017 was a list was asked, you know, of certain events that are occurring at the facilities now. So we have Arbor Ridge, the independent living, where the voting was taking place. So we put together a list, I don't think it was the understanding that all-inclusive, because we had Omega on there, because Omega was coming in. Megan, you helped me with the list. Rhinebeck Chamber, because they were meeting in their rooms. Craft fairs we had in the nursing home. You know, the employees appreciated it, the residents and visitors and guests that came through. So those are the kinds of things that we threw together on the 2017 list without understanding that, whoa, you know, that's what happened.
Yeah,
So-
well, I
What we
think,
live with forever.
yeah, no, I think what happened when we had requested the list, I think when we started looking back at the 2017 application, it said, you know, it gave like a list of like, these are the things that are happening, or like Brookmead accessory uses such as blah, 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 and then said, and other events happening, so we were like, well, what other events are happening? I think that's what we had wanted to kind of understand, you know, to see what was represented to the planning board at the time of the 2017. So it wasn't so much a list, it was just, that was what that request was, to understand.
We had a penny social every year.
Yeah.
People have brought in baskets from the community that came in. There used to be a garage sale when I first started working there. The activities room was filled with donations, like couches and things like that, that took up the whole rehab room because they had an annual garage sale. So there was all of those kinds of different fundraising efforts. And a lot of those programs, which in turn turned into a craft fair, which you see a lot of people, the high school did that kind of event, and it just, I mean, you spoke to some of the residents, it brings just a different life to them, and yeah, so I just wanted to add that piece of it. I didn't understand at that time that it is an all-inclusive list, that we put together.
It was, and just to be clear, Karen, that was a different question in the 2025. We were trying to better understand what approvals were granted you in 2017.
But this list I gave you in 2017,
Is what you would say would be the fundraising list?
yeah, it wasn't like, I didn't realize that you could, like, I put Omega on there. I mean, we love Omega because they were coming to the buildings. I didn't know that, okay, only Omega will be able to come, or only Rhinebeck Chamber. Because I provided a list that was, give us some ideas of what the space would be used for. I said, it'd be great, because we can remove this from Arbor Ridge, the voting, we can move the, you know, these certain things that were happening, that were in the space, in the living
Already
space
happening.
of our residents there.
Yeah.
But I think the concern is that, you know, I think from the public comments, it was very clear that, you know, there is a good utility to having the community, and it's a nice opportunity for groups that may have outgrown their space, such as the beekeepers. But I think the concern is that when does it now go from an accessory use to Brookmead to a community center, which isn't permitted in the RC5 and which is now kind of a separate use? I think that was the concern raised with the beekeepers, or you know, we wanted to understand, well, who have you been?
Far above what I can understand, so that's for them.
You
I just want to
understand what
I
I'm
understand what you're
saying?
saying.
Yeah.
If, you
And
know,
I-
you
and I-
can't have like multiple principal uses, you kind of have to,
Yeah.
that's why we keep talking about that nexus or connection, because it has to be overall
Yeah.
connected to Brookmead, and I think it's very clear that it's great space to use, but it has to still, as the board has mentioned, be the confines of what's permitted.
Correct.
I totally understand where you're coming from about,
I'm
when
sorry
we
for
wrote this
confusion.
list, it was like, well, these are the things that we do. The kind of codification of that list that then happened in the 2025 resolution was to not take something away that had been explicitly granted. But all the things that weren't explicitly granted is the area we're leveling in.
Kind of like we didn't want to keep expanding what's not really accessory use, like, you know, giving it to, you know, I think there were like I think that there was the Star Library, I think had wanted to have a gala,
They're doing a fundraiser there.
yeah, and that's what we wanted to say. These were the ones that you had mentioned and represented to the board, but there has to be a limit before we start getting into another use completely, you know, using the pavilion as a meeting space or a community space. There's a point where it just, we're now having two separate uses on
We're unrelated.
They're unrelated,
Yeah.
right, yeah.
So I think if we put together like a more forward-looking
Yes.
document that kind of outlines what our activities, what we would see them to be, that might be,
I think that would be
Yes,
really helpful for the board to.
I
Yes.
think that would be very helpful.
Sure.
And I think in particular, things that would be marketed to the public. So I think that, you know, you having a group in and it's just in that list, that's in the 2017 list, if they come in and have a meeting, we don't need to know about that. But if you're, you know, if you are marketing something to the general public, something that we're gonna see and go, I wonder what that's all about, do we need to be concerned about that? Then those are the things we want to know about. And be able to say, so for example, the Star Library having a gala there, to me, would not fall into the current permitted uses, because that would be a total third party.
and just to be clear, that did not
It
happen.
didn't happen.
Yeah, no,
I
I'm not saying it
Yeah, I
did,
didn't want-
but.
No, I just wanted to just give an example.
Thank- yeah, no, I
wanted to give
appreciate
an
that.
example.
We're clear on the things, on the things that are sort of grandfathered in, we're clear on things that happened within the confines of Brookmead, and the thing that this particular violation, where it falls foul, is the opening it to the public. And I think we're acknowledging that maybe some things should be open to the public, and we just wanna be clear on what
What those
they
things are.
are, and so that so that we don't end up here again.
Sure, no, I appreciate that, and
Yeah.
I think my client appreciates that as well.
Sean, can you just,
Sure.
is it okay?
Sure, public hearing's still open.
Still open.
You should probably never talk over the board. I'll be very brief. One of the things my name is Michael Green, I'm the board president at Community of Brookmead. One of the things that I think that it really bothered me was people were telling us what we can do and can't do for the residents at the Baptist home, or now it's the Meadows. I get it, I know. Or at the community of Brookmead. What I think you really have to understand too about our community is it's not just a nursing home. We have assisted living there, so a little more viable to go out a little bit. We have independent living there, as well as we have the adult day, you know, where people bring people into elderly and some younger people, you know, disabled people. So when we do these things, I've been on the board since 1999. When we did all these programs, it was always because we wanted our residents involved in these things. When it kept coming up, I was shocked at the fact that we couldn't do the craft fair. Yeah, the people from the outside come in, but do you see the people going in there with wheelchairs, going and socializing in the craft fair with people that are outside or within the community? You know, they'll never remember when somebody's in a nursing home. It's usually because they can't do functions of daily living, the ADLs, daily living, activity living, and now we can get them to these places, and they can buy a little something, walk around, talk to people. Then, of course, we have our seniors, the independent. They come down there to the craft fair. They're in our community. They can actually drive their car down there if they want to. Then we have the assisted living. They can get up on their own. It's just across the street, actually. So, you know, what I'm saying is when you look at some of the activities we're doing, it may look like to you that it's just a fundraiser and they're just trying to make money or they're trying to do that. We're trying to involve our community in it. And if these people can come in and the residents that live there can do these things, it makes a big difference in their life. And I know it because I have somebody living there in my family. And what she can do there compared to what I can give to her, it just blows me away. So I just wanted you to, when we give a list, you know, I hate giving lists because we might want to add something to it later. But when we give a list, we're trying to, it's involving the whole community there. And yeah, we want people from the outside to come in. First of all, that we want them to know that we exist, how beautiful our place is, and that maybe they will bring their loved ones there when it's time. I mean, so it is a marketing thing. I don't want to deny that, but it's more than that. It's allowing our residents to be involved in community activities. I'll stop there.
Thank you, Mike.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there another gentleman who would like to have to say?
I hope I'm not being repetitious, but he just wasn't finished saying everything I was going to say. My wife was a resident of Brookmead there for 4 years. And with that, I was in there on a daily basis. I'm a Rhinebeck resident. My name is Arnold Johnson. I worked in this area for many, many years. I was a trooper locally and around the area. Lived in Germantown. And so I'm involved with so many people from around the area that, and even on these petitions, they weren't necessarily people just from Rhinebeck that signed them. There were people who had family down here. We have a very high percentage of people. Yeah, we have in New York City, we have in different places. On the other hand, we have a very high percentage of local people. And the family comes in when we have a craft fair, when we have some of these other things, you know, and a gala or whatever, and they'll bring their resident family down. And so in reality, is it that far of a stretch to say, yes, this is for residents too, when we are having some sort of a fundraiser, because where are they going to go? You're not going to take them down to Beekman Arms to go dancing or to see dancing or to see activity going. You know, what, in a wheelchair, can you roll them down there? You know, if faculty's still there, maybe a little bit off, but still enough to go and appreciate the things that are happening and see people other than the people you're going to see in the dining room, and to go and say have a selection of folks. And it's very, very important. I just cannot stress it. In addition to that, I think it's so important. After my wife passed, it seemed like my car didn't know how to pull out of my driveway without turning left. I put in as a volunteer, probably 100 hours a month. I am in there almost 7 days a week generally. Say, oh, you here again? No, but, and that's how much this place really means to me, because of the way it was treated and the environment, and people see you people to talk to. I mean, I spent a bunch of time just walking around, shooting the breeze. If I can put a smile on somebody's face, which these events would do when you're seeing other people, then it's well worthwhile. I get more out of it than I put into it. But I really hope you come up with some very, very favorable decisions, because it's really needed and it's an important place. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Jones. Yes.
I'll make it quick. Good evening. I'm Rebecca Stotts. I'm the director of the Rhinebeck Community Nursery School. And in 2021, I contacted Brian and Karen and asked if they had a place to rent, because we were currently homeless. It's a nursery school that had been established in the town of Rhinebeck in 1997. And we have been happy residents there for the last few years. And we did come before the Rhinebeck Zoning Board, not the Board of Appeals, but the Zoning Board. Planning Board, yes, in 2021. And it was determined that we were an accessory use, that we were given the variance because we were integral to the needs of the senior citizens who resided at the community at Brookmead. And it's been an incredible partnership. I just wanted to second what Mike said and what Arnie said, and also to say when you do look at that list, if there's a way you can make a lens that really values and looks at the senior citizen involvement and emotional and social enrichment, because that's what we're there for, that's what most of these things are there for, and that's what we try and do at Brookmead. So thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay, so as far as homework goes, I'll prepare a list to submit to Gretchen, and that can be circulated among the board. If you come up with anything else in the meantime, I can get that to you within a week. Is that
That should be fine.
reasonable?
I would continue the public hearing so that the board has a chance to look at the list and in case any public
Okay,
wants
so
to
let's make
comment.
it 2 weeks. So can you get it to you in 2 weeks?
Oh, yeah, I thought you meant the meeting.
Okay. No, I know we're not planning.
Yeah, that would be fine.
Okay,
So we would continue it.
Continue the public hearing
Public
to
hearing.
September.
So I'd like to make a motion to continue the public hearing for September 16th. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
thank you very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Very welcome. All right. Old business.
Do we do fourth floor?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Paul Michael from Timely Signs, and I'm here to represent Foster Flooring. I believe we have to close the public hearing if anyone's here to talk about that.
I think the public hearing is closed,
Okay.
the stays so you're just on the.
So do I need to close
Yes.
the public hearing in general, so not just voting? It's just reading the resolution or yeah, discussion?
Yeah,
Are we doing, is Gottlieb Graham on too?
they're on for resolution, but they're not here,
Okay.
so if you wanna just,
But they don't have to be here.
they don't have to be here.
Oh,
Just-
oh,
just
yeah,
'cause-
oh, yeah, no. Yes, let's crack on. Okay, so this is, I have no idea.
Joe was, so do you wanna discuss this, the site visit?
I could not make it, so.
Please.
Yeah,
I'll just
I
put
felt
up,
like the sign in terms of the proposed look and feel of it was fine, just with the building certainly. It's what was proposed. The placement, I think, Kim you did clarify that it needs to be 20 feet from the property line?
Yeah, do you know what measurement it is? It wasn't clear on the map.
Let me just check. There's a couple of,
It was challenging because we didn't really know where the property line was.
it wasn't marked, but I believe that there was an orange stake in the ground that looks like it coincided with the, where the property line is shown on the site plan. You could open, yeah, that one there. You see this line here? This is the property line. Okay, this is the building, this is the road. This curb cut was installed shortly before we got there. Okay, a couple days or something. When they were putting the landscaping in, there was an orange stake about right there. And I think that this is the property line, and it goes here. It's 35 feet from the edge of the road, and it has to just be within the property line. It doesn't have to be 20 feet from the property line.
I thought what Kim had,
I think it said that it had to be, I don't have the thing on there. It said within 20 feet of the property line, no more than 20 feet of the property line. See if I can
can't be any closer to the
more?
property.
Let me look at what it says. I mean, it's gotta be near the road.
That's 55 feet then, I mean, that's just
From the property, 20 feet from the
55
property.
feet from the road because, you know, the last one we did here for Decker Cat Rentals, that was 20 feet from the edge of the road. Now, I don't know where their property line is, but I think the 35 feet back was from the road.
Yeah, well, this is for permanent signs in other districts. I don't know what the residential districts are, but I believe that Decker was in a residential zone.
Yeah, that was an outlier.
So
just
here's what
because
it's,
it was-
yeah, so what it
it's
says
rural.
here is, freestanding signs shall not exceed 6 feet in height, nor be located closer than 20 feet to any property line. But what I said in the resolution was that I encouraged you to go to the building department just to verify that, just so you didn't need another variance, that's all. You have to go for a sign permit, correct?
Yeah, I mean, we have a check for a sign permit. It's been in here for 4 months, so.
Yeah,
I'd love
yeah,
to
just
get
double,
it.
just double check the measurements, just so that you don't, we just wanna make sure you don't have to come back here, that's.
This went through site plan review with that sign on the site plan, no?
Yeah, I think the issue is we couldn't tell where you were gonna put the sign when we went to the site visit.
Well, they did take the fence down today.
Okay.
But I mean,
Everyone, let's take a field
if it wasn't actually the fence that was the problem, we didn't know where the property line was definitively so that we could measure 20 feet from it. So that's why, you know, we went through that little thing where the sign was over here, it was over here, it was over here, just so we could get a sense of,
Okay.
depending on how far
So
away it is.
all we're saying is that we assume that the building permit, the person who's gonna close that permit is going to make sure that the sign's in the right place at this point, and that we didn't have any issues with our aspects of the sign.
I mean, I
Which is-
think that last photo
Area.
that you showed,
Not position.
was about the furthest away from the road that we had it.
See, now that's up closer, and then of course you've got the cut in there too, so it's hard to know exactly where. I think Kim, wait.
Can you go back to the site plan real quick? This is where we were showing the sign. Okay? Right?
Oh, yeah.
Right, this is the property line. There was an orange stake. I think somebody got a picture of that. This is the property line. This is where that fence came around. We were showing this, the sign was about right here, as I recall. So if this is the property line, I mean, I'll ask them to mark it out the site contractor probably has a very good idea of where that property line is. It may even be marked up here and they can pull a line or something. From what you're telling me is this sign needs to be back 20 feet. 20 feet from here to here, like whatever the leading edge of that sign is, needs to be 20 feet back from that property line.
Yep.
Okay. And I can put it anywhere in here at our discretion.
Well,
Just
it needs to-
for-
yeah, I mean,
Well, wherever it is on the site
where
plan,
where
right?
it is on the site plan.
Well, that's not 20 feet. That's what I'm
Well,
saying.
they
You
like-
have another drawing, there is another drawing that shows it
Okay.
20 feet from something.
But just, I need clarity, you're saying, just, your legal counsel, this is the property line, I'm going in here 20 feet.
20 feet, yeah, it
Okay.
can't be
Can't be closer
closer,
to
it can't
that.
be closer to
Okay,
that.
that's where it's gonna go.
I tried to look for the planning board, I didn't see it on the planning board,
So
so.
that's what I was just gonna ask you. If it is on the science site plan,
Yeah.
it's not in the correct.
I have that in the resolution.
But it could
You could do a
thought
field
there's a field change. You
Yeah.
could ask them for just a
Yeah, so
field
I'll
change because.
go through that. Yeah,
Okay.
that's why I didn't say you had to go back for an amendment in case it could be a field change.
Right, because it's required by
Yeah.
this, yeah.
Yes, yeah,
I
it
just-
was there. I have
Basically,
the
we just wanted
document
to draw
with
it
me
to your
and
attention, just so that when you go for a permit,
we just couldn't tell.
I mean, I think it'll work.
Make it match.
I drove by it today, they planted a grove of trees right where the sign is supposed to go, so it may not even be visible after all this work, which I don't understand how that ends up happening, but, because the sign is the only thing in that area on the site plan, and people just planted literally about 12 trees in the area we looked at on Saturday.
I guess they could unplan something.
So, you know, I'm trying to get this completed so I can go on with my life.
Show you some other sign.
Projects to do. And, you know, if it's 25 feet, it's 20 feet, whatever it is from the property line, we'll do it. But they've got to move the trees. Otherwise, they're just wasting their time and money on a variance and a sign that no one's going to be able to see, so.
Yeah.
I'll go talk to Jacob from Halton Construction. I didn't think they were going to plant any trees over there, and I drove by on the way to the meeting, it was a forest. It was a forest, an immature forest, but in 3 years,
Yeah.
you're not gonna see that sign.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh dear.
Yeah, so I'll talk to
Well,
them
I
about
think
that.
we were agreed, if the sign is in the right place from the
Yes.
property line.
Alright.
didn't have a problem with the design of the sign, it was
No,
just
no.
making sure.
Or-
Yeah,
or
the
the exact
sign is not,
area.
it really isn't, the sign is a 12 square foot sign, but because it's double sided, you needed another 12 square feet for the second sign. Yeah, it's just the way that the code is written, it's not real conducive to like a double sided sign on a highway situation, so.
Yeah.
Alright, I'll
So do we need to?
Do we need to,
So
don't you have to
read-
draft a resolution
I
and
have
send it to me? Oh, you do? Okay.
I usually post it online with the assistance of the town clerk, but I didn't get to it.
Oh, that's okay.
But that's why.
Can I look at it online?
Yeah, you can take a copy
Okay.
right there.
Alright.
So I'll just go through with the board, I haven't circulated it to you, so you've seen it, I'll just show you what I've changed since you've seen it.
Okay.
So I got in the referral dates, thanks to Gretchen for providing those to me. And then I clarified who was on the site visit, which was Scott, Karen, Catherine.
Yeah.
And so based on Karen, Catherine's comments, I just added that due to the current condition of the property with ongoing construction, it is difficult to fully evaluate the position of the sign in relation to the property boundary. Per Town of Rhinebeck zoning law, section 125-37, K3, it's noted that freestanding signs shall not be located closer than 20 feet. The applicant is encouraged to confirm that no additional area variants are required for the sign placement. No business or deliberations were conducted on the site. And then I just kind of added that to a little bit of that discussion to the undesirable change criteria, which just said again, it was unclear if it met the setbacks. The applicant is encouraged to verify that it's in the right location. And then if anybody wants to read through the now therefore be it resolved, about the honors.
Sure. Should I read it? Oh, that's got changes, so I gotta read it from there, right?
Yeah, does that one have the, yeah, can you see it? I can,
I'm not sure it doesn't have, has anything to do.
okay. Okay, can you read it okay, Joe, from this?
Yeah, I can.
Okay.
I think that's the one that has the changes.
Yeah.
You think this one right here?
Yeah, it should,
Okay.
we'll follow along. So that's the one you sent me,
Yes,
a red line and then the.
a red line, yeah.
Yeah, the sign shall want to be looked again.
Are you okay? Now, therefore, the. Do I gotta state the, I forgot.
No, just now they're.
Okay. Now, therefore, be it resolved based on all the facts described above and upon reasoning, the reasoning described above as follows. The ZBA hereby grants the variance requested by the applicant, finding that the benefit to the applicant outweighs the detriment to the health, safety, and welfare of the neighborhood or community by such a grant. The applicant's existing wall identity sign only faces one direction along Route 9G, so a double-sided freestanding sign is illogical and necessary to demonstrate Foster Flooring's location along Route 9G. Along this stretch of Route 9G, there are many businesses with signs, most of which exceed the permitted 12 square foot area. Therefore, the proposed sign will not be out of character with the surrounding neighborhood, and will properly identify the location of the Foster Flooring on Route 9G. The granting of these variances are expressly contingent upon the following. The proposed structure must be constructed in conformity with the application and plan submitted. The sign shall be located in the same location that was approved by the planning board in its site plan approval. If the sign is not consistent with the location approved by the planning board, the applicant may be required to seek an amendment to the site plan. Furthermore, the applicant shall confirm with the zoning enforcement officer that the location of the sign is within the necessary setbacks and that no further area variances are required for the location of this proposed sign. The granting of these variances shall be expressly contingent upon the applicant's full payment to the town of Rhinebeck of any and all fees and escrow deposits due in connection with this application in full compliance of Article 14, Article 14 fee reimbursement of the town of Rhinebeck zoning law. These variances shall not be deemed granted until all such fees are paid in full by the applicant. Section 4. The granting of these variances does not absolve the applicant from having to secure any other required permits and/or approvals. Section 5. The area variances shall be null and void unless the proposed construction is commenced within 12 months of this resolution. Upon specific written request by the applicant, a time extension may be made in writing no later than 2 weeks prior to the 12-month expiration date of the adoption of this resolution. The consideration to grant such an extension request shall be in the sole discretion of the ZBA. Over here. Motion to approve the resolution.
Yeah, any discussion from the board?
Any discussion from the board?
No.
So motion to approve the resolution by
No.
Lee,
So I'll second it.
seconded by,
Okay. Kara?
Yes.
Joe?
yes.
Kathy? Yes.
Good.
Okay. Thanks, I will seek the advice of the
CEO.
ZEO. Okay.
Yeah, what,
We'll get that, I think we got some trees to move first, but I just gotta go talk to the GC and see what we can figure out.
yeah, just make sure that whatever was approved with the planning board is pretty consistent. What Gretchen was saying is that sometimes if it's like a minor change, like, moving it over like a few feet or something, just to be conformity, it's called a field change, so you don't even come back in front of the planning board. So
Okay.
that's what, just double check your approvals and double check with the CEO.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Do we need to read the last one?
So that's the same, this was provided to the board. I didn't get a chance to send it to Joan, but there's copies available if anybody wants.
Is that part of this pack that we got?
Yes, Bill.
Yes.
And then, I can't remember who had this.
Richard.
Richard, okay.
I'm happy to do.
So whoever wants to.
Yes.
Are you okay with that?
Yep. Glad.
This is for the Samuel Scott Reed.
Exactly. Okay. So, for the matter of area variance application of Andrew Samuels upon Agape Graham, ZBA case 1094. Now therefore let it be resolved, based on all the facts described above and upon the reasoning described above as follows. The ZBA hereby grants the variance requested by the applicant, finding that the benefit to the applicant outweighs the detriment to the health, safety, and welfare of the neighborhood or community by such a grant. The proposed accessory dwelling unit is numerically large, but it sits within a 14-acre lot in the RM10 zoning district. The applicant proposed a principal dwelling unit and an accessory dwelling unit. In comparison, the principal dwelling unit, the proposed accessory dwelling unit, in comparison to the principal dwelling unit, the proposed accessory dwelling unit, while exceeding the permitted 900 square feet requirement of the zoning law, is incidental and subordinate to the principal dwelling and the overall size of the property. The property remains residential in nature, with the accessory dwelling unit proposed for family and friends visiting. The layout of the accessory dwelling will not be visible from Mill Road and avoids the conservation easement at the rear of the property. The accessory structure has been carefully designed and well fit in the property. Although the driveway is large and will require much work, the planning board's consulting engineer and fire inspector have reviewed it and found it to be satisfactory, safe, accessible, and feasible. Section 2, the granting of this variance is expressly contingent upon the proposed structure being constructed in conformance with the plans and application materials submitted by the applicant and reviewed by the ZBA. Section 3, the granting of this variance shall also be expressly contingent upon the applicant's full payment to the town of Rhinebeck of any and all fees and escrow deposits due in connection with this application in full compliance with Article 14, fee reimbursement of the town of Rhinebeck zoning law. This variance shall not be deemed granted until all such fees are paid in full by the applicant. Section 4, the granting of this variance does not absolve the applicant from having to secure any other required permits and/or approvals. Section 5, the area variance shall be null and void unless the proposed construction is commenced within 12 months of this resolution. Upon specific request by the applicant, a time extension may be made in writing no later than 2 weeks prior to the 12-month expiration date of adoption of this resolution. The consideration to grant such extension request shall be in the sole discretion of the ZBA. I'd like to make a motion to approve this resolution. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Any discussion?
Oh, any discussion?
Alright, ready?
Ready?
Tara?
Yes.
Bill?
Yes.
Heather?
Yes.
Okay. And then
That's right.
we need adjournment. We got adjournment.
I make a motion to adjourn.
Oh, yeah.
I'd like to make a motion to adjourn this meeting of the zoning board of appeals. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Good job.
Sure you wanna stop?